Welcome to the opening round of the inaugural TPS Virtual Carrera Cup from Monza.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
The hype for the virtual V8 supercars was big. The hype for the Thomas Cole Clio series was even bigger. But this could possibly be the most hotly anticipated TPS championship in the history of the league. This championship has drawn some incredibly incredible quality and talented drivers. Pre-qualifying was as close as anything, and with a £1,300 GamePod rig up for grabs, it's going to be possibly one of, if not the most competitive and hotly contested championships in the history of TPS. Hello everybody and welcome to this, the very much awaited opening round of the inaugural TPS Virtual Carrera Cup, and we're here at the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza for what promises to be two races of a series that everyone has been looking forward to and has attracted a very wide variety of drivers, all incredibly talented and all set to do battle on this incredibly fast circuit. Introduce the commentary team for this race anyway. Myself, Scott Woodwiss, will be leading today, and joining me in the commentary box, and he'll be in for the duration of the season, is my good friend, Mr. Danny Asbury. And Danny, as we said, this is a championship that everyone has been really looking forward to. It's been great expectations, and with the grid that we've got for the opening round and for the rest of the season, I think this championship is set to make them.
Scott, you're exactly right about this one. Like you said, in 2012, we had virtual V8 supercars. 2013, Thomas Cole Clio series. And now for 2014, the 2014 season, this is the big one, the Virtual Carrera Cup Championship. And Scott, I am just as excited as you are to watch this one. And we are actually so excited for this race, in fact, that we brought in a little help to help us here with this round one broadcast. Robert Wiesenmueller will be joining us as the pit lane reporter. So, Robert, how's it going, buddy?
Hello, guys. I'm very glad to be here for this opening round because this is shaping up to be one of the greatest series TPS has ever run.
Yep, you can't deny that at all. And of course, the calendar that we've got for you, which of course is on the right-hand side. Well, it was on the right-hand side, so there we go, put that back up. We'll go to the pre-qualifying runners in a moment, but the calendar we're going to run through kind of picks from the best kind of championship test circuits, the championships of the Porsche Carrera Cup and Super Cup, which this championship is based on, visits around the world. We start here at Monza, of course, which is the best circuit, arguably for the Italian, and also in some ways maybe the Porsche Super Cup itself. We then head to Lebanon in a couple of weeks in France for the best circuit from the Porsche Carrera Cup France. The best circuit from the IMSA GT3 Championship is going to be Road Atlanta, and that'll be on the 21st of December, one of the last few races before Christmas. And then our first race of 2014 will be at the Norris Ring, one of the better circuits for the Porsche Carrera Cup Germany. The cream of the crop from the Porsche Carrera Cup GB circuits sees us go to Thruxton, before we head to one of the Scandinavian circuits, Jyllandsringen in Denmark for the penultimate round, and all finishes at the big one, Mount Panorama in Bathurst on the 1st of March, where we'll see two 13-lap races, and if it hasn't been decided just then, we'll find a champion, which will come from one of these 32 drivers. These are the fastest of the fastest, the best of the best, and fastest of them all, actually setting the fastest time in the final hours of pre-qualifying was Sweden's Erik Strana for Ice Cold Racing, but the team to watch for this championship is not THR, not even Precision. It's the guys that finished 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 6th, and 7th. 5 cars in the top 10, and that is Spade Racing. A relatively new team, but the lineup of talent they've got, Danny, is fantastic. The likes of Tim Heinemann, Mark Fangman, Marius Gommenbeck, Sasha Glatter, and in particular, the most winningest driver in TPS history, Jesper Tolborg.
It's very interesting to watch how Spade has entered this series. Because they went out and got Jesper Tolborg on board with this operation from the get-go. To me, that sent the statement that these guys weren't playing games here. Okay, this was all business. And now, from what I understand, this was a contractual agreement between Spade Racing and Jasper Tolberg. Some actual money is changing hands with this move here. So that's what drew Jasper Tolberg, like you said, got the winningest driver in TPS history away from THR to join Spade Racing. So not to say obviously Tolberg did that just for money. He's obviously also had ties with Spade Racing, which is a remnant of My 3ID, which last saw themselves in TPS in Virtual V8 2011. So Jasper Tolberg rejoins this crew, and then it headlines it just a staggeringly strong pre-quali where you're seeing Eric Strana taking the pre-quali win. And of course there's no points or anything like that at stake in these pre-qualies, but that is a tremendous honor for Eric Strana to win the toughest pre-quali TPS has ever hosted. So I think it sets the tone for not only himself, but Ice Cold Racing in the championship. And I think you're exactly right, Scott. You know, it's no longer a battle between THR and Precision. Now you've got Spade Racing, I think, are the favorites, with Ice Cold Racing as the number 2. Then we get to THR and Precision. It's going to be very interesting to see how this all unfolds over the course, not only today, Scott, but the entire championship.
Absolutely, and also looking at some of the other teams in here as well, we welcome Ghost Speed Racing to this championship. Fabio Aston-Sam and Sergio Jr. managed to get 2 cars into the top tier. And what's also intriguing is also looking at the spread. Sorry, I'm so excited I can't even speak. Between THR and Precision, THR only 2 cars into the top tier with Sil Makilov and Alexander Lauritsen, whereas THR, I'm counting on the fly here, they've got about 5 cars into the top run, 2 from their THR Red Stable, 2 from THR Orange, and 1 from THR Green. But the man we've got to watch, of course, is our star driver. He is someone who was this year's VW Scirocco R Cup champion. He's racing with THR, and his brother Sheldon's also taking part. It is the man second on the right, you can see. In fact, on screen right now, it is this man, South African superstar Kelvin van der Linden. Now, he is only 17 years old, but he has raced in TPS before. He raced in the Virtual Touring Masters back in the Group A days when we used the TCL and all the Touring Car Legends. And he actually won a race after he was battling with Toby Davis, and after rather controversial when Davis hit him up the back. And what's ironic is that now they're teammates, Danny, which I think is quite funny. But got Kelvin, also his brother Sheldon's also in here as well. I did also see in the list, I'm not sure where Augustin Canapino went to, because of course he's a real racing driver. He races in the Argentinian TC2000 Touring Car Series. I believe he's been a race winner there also. I do also know that just for the hell of it in the server, not actually seriously pre-qualifying, Stoffel Van Dorn did set a few laps in the server also. I think he ended up, I can't remember, something like 44th quickest, but again, it wasn't serious laps, just for fun. But yeah, I think in some ways, some of the focus will be going on to Kelvin, Danny, because of course he is a driver who's been successful in real life, another driver who has been successful in real life motorsport, but his roots in many ways lie in sim racing.
This was actually, I think, a very big signing for THR. Not just because obviously this is a real racer we're looking at here, but THR obviously going into this championship, they lost Jasper Tolberg, okay? The best driver they've ever had, the best driver TPS has ever seen. They've also obviously lost William Levesque over the summer season. So those are 2 marquee acquisitions for THR that are gone. So I think they've kind of been able to get away with this until now. I think you look at the driver lineup in this championship, it looks a little bit deflated. Them bringing on Kelvin van der Linden really helps bolster their numbers. And so we're seeing obviously Toby Davis in the garage on third as we're just heading over into the Q1 session, 10 minutes on the board right now. But with Kelvin to help out Chris Butcher, Toby Davis, like we said, Kenneth Yerman, this is going to help this team stay relevant here in this championship and hopefully the TPS as it continues to go forward. And just to be clear here, I think we're going to have, like Scott said, we're going to have two 10-minute qualifying sessions, obviously one for each race, but the first one is just about to get underway here after a quick timeout here. We're just looking at the poster as we go back into the game. Everyone's just flooding onto the track. Just to point out again to the viewers here, you might be expecting, obviously it's Monza's high speed, but talking to the drivers, the draft is not going to be such an important factor as one might expect in these cars here at this track. Maybe in qualifying it'll come into play a little bit, but I don't expect it to be such an overwhelming thing once we get into the races, Scott.
And Rob, I want to bring you on this as well, because of course you are part of the THR stable, of course, but you selected not to race in this championship. Does it surprise you a little bit that THR have managed to get 5 cars into the top tier, of course, with Chris Butcher, Toby Davis, Kelvin van der Linde, of course, David Jung and Kenneth German. Whereas compared to Precision, they've only Kielov and Lauritsen are up in the top 32, and the rest of the guys are fighting out in the second tier. So were you expecting a few more to be contesting, and off the back, do you think that's going to make THR's life and their ongoing fight with Precision a little bit easier?
Well, the thing is that the cards are reshuffled in this championship, and we've been struggling a lot to find enough drivers who really feel comfortable in these cars. So we're quite happy to have 5 cars in the first division. And the thing about the fight with Precision is, I think in this championship it changes completely, because you got Ice Cold, you got Spade Racing, you got GT Competizione as well. We're just up there as well. So I think we have to see now without Jesper how well we can do in this championship.
So looking now, we're on board currently with Tim Heinemann, the man who was quickest in practice, as he now heads onto the pit straight to go ahead and start his lap. And we'll go for a lap with Tim as he heads down the pit straight here. And this long drag, it's going to be perfect for slipstreaming down this long back straight. So the car's reaching almost 170 miles an hour, and it has to hit the brakes hard at 150 meters down towards, actually, 17175. There's the top speed set by the top guys. And look at that, 270 kilometers an hour exactly from the first 3. Through the first chicane, which is the Rettifilio, we then run now through the long Curva Grande, more chances for slipstreaming, and if you're daring to make an outside pass here, it will set you up on the inside for the next big stop, which will be underneath the bridge here, underneath the old banking, which is the Rogier chicane. Very tricky, and it's a circuit where you have to make the most of using the curves without cutting them too much. Mind the gravel trap on the left-hand side, because that can definitely catch you out and pull you wide. Next on to the 2 Lesmo corners, it's slightly cambered on the first one, it's longer than the second part, and again, huge Santrap on the left. Be careful not to take advantage and run too wide. The second part slightly shorter and a little bit faster. You can see Heinemann wrestling this Cup car down out of the second Lesmo, and now onto the little kink, which is the flat-out Curva di Seraglio, and then down to a very high-speed chicane, which is the Curva Ascari. They're flat underneath the second part of the oval banking, the old oval that they used to use in the Grand Prix races, and then in here through Ascari, you flick left, long right, and again you flick left again onto the back straight, which will then set you up for the final corner, the Parabolica. And it's a slightly harder break. It's not as hard break as some of the other circuits, but then it's a circuit that is tight on entry and then widely opens out on the exit that helps you get the best run possible. And it's drivers here who can maximise their exit from the Parabolica that will get the best possible slipstream, if they can get it, down the pit straight. We've got times coming in. First benchmark has been set by Simon Kielov of Precision, a 150.514. Watkins Tim Heinemann pronounced the bag from his first flying lap, and he goes across the line, and he's not just yet across the line. He comes in a second, and he's gone to third, 150.893. So far, Danny, looks as though initially Kielov has found some pace in that Cup car, and he seems to have actually got the measure of Spade Racing for the moment, at least, because these guys, including Sasha Glasser, of course, who's come up to finish his lap time, are still, I think, yet to show their true colours right now.
Yeah, because so the viewers will know, the fastest time we saw through the week of testing was from Tim Heinemann there with a 50 flat. So he can go much faster than he did with at 50.8 there. So expect these times to drop dramatically over the next 5 minutes. And just a quick note, I guess, of how these cars kind of drive. Remember, there's not so much you can do setup-wise with these Porsches. The thing is, you also have to be very careful with the gear changes, because that has been a huge issue talking to a lot of the drivers, that they're actually blowing their engine by downshifting way too fast. Remember, these cars are pretty stiff. You know, they're not trying to get very squirrely into the corner. So I mean, these guys had to be very disciplined, not just do this quality session, but especially under race trim. Because listen, if you blow your engine in qualifying, you can always just exit back to the garage and get another car. That's one of the things about sim racing. In the race, though, a blown engine, something like that, will absolutely do you over. These guys have to maintain that driving style that these cars kind of demand. These Porsche, these Carrera Cup cars. So again, Kielov continues to hold pole position, but we're riding on board Jasper Tallberg. Remember, Spade's signature acquisition for this winter championship. Ken Tallberg beat Spade. He's going into the Parabolica right now. Can he not beat Spade, beat Precision? But like I said, we talked about, Scott, we're not looking for much from Precision this championship, but so far they hold a provisional pole position. Jasper Tallberg going to the line right about now. Can he now get around Mr. Gollenbeck? Actually goes to pole position. What's Tallberg got? He goes fourth. So 50.8 for Jasper Tallberg there, Scott.
I think he lost time possibly through the Ascari because he was getting rather sideways through the middle of that chicane, so possibly where he had lost the time. But looking now as measured, so he's now Golombek fastest on a 150.314. Tim Heinemann second on a 150.464. Simon Kielov now third on 130.5. Diogo Silva is now fourth for GT Competizione, so they've been looking mighty impressive. Both Diogo Silva in fourth and Pipo Rodriguez in seventh, and also their third car of Diogo Quaresma in P10. Jesper Tarbell going faster even still now, is set to 1 by 5,000ths of a second. Quick note for any THR fans, the top driver of them at the moment in the qualifying session is Chris Butcher, 151.015. So the THR guys, Rob, not exactly getting to the 150s yet. They have the capability because in practice Toby Davis was managing it, as we watch Davis now head down towards Parabolica down the back straight. But so far, maybe just struggling a little bit, but would you expect them to come a little bit stronger with 3.5 minutes left to go?
Yeah, I think Toby Davis can definitely do a lap like 0.5, 50.5, for example, because he's done that in practice. So I expect to see that sooner or later. But I've been following these Spade Racing guys a bit, and I've been watching their lines, see how they drive, and they, Golombek especially, he was driving very aggressive, taking lots of curb, and he still kept the car very stable. So that was interesting to see, and that explains why he's so fast. The other thing is that these guys, they haven't gone back to the pits. They just put fuel in their car, went out and drive all the way through qualifying. So in most of the other leagues we see that drivers do maybe 1, maybe 2 flying laps, and here they can drive the whole session. But I think this already shows that tire wear won't be the biggest issue. It's more about speed in this championship.
That's actually a good point, Rob, because the drivers are saying that it's just about getting these tires up to temperature. You don't, like you say, you don't need to exit back to the pits. It's just that's what everyone's doing, just one run all the way through it. The thing about THR and their pace here, Chris Butcher, his fastest time through the week of testing was I think 50.3. Toby Davis, I'm hearing, is able to do a 50.1. So they've got the pace. Again, it's just about getting the tires up to temperature, because you're seeing the time start to creep up at the front. We started with 50.5s on provisional pole. Now we're down to 50.3. I expect it to go 50.1 at some point, perhaps maybe within the final minute here of the qualifying session. So it's definitely something we can expect to go down with only not 2 minutes on the board here.
On board with the Slovenian Joko Gorenc. He was 8th quickest in pre-qualifying. He's car number 34 for Core Racing, and he's now heading his way through the Lesmo corners. A little bit of a lock-up in the second part, a little bit wide here, as we're now looking at Kelvin's younger brother, Sheldon van der Linden. Now he is racing for Infinity Esports Racing with a distinctive charcoal grey and almost lime green Cup car here. He's currently 6th quickest, so brilliant effort for Sheldon, quicker than his brother Kelvin, who is currently in the top 10, 10th quickest, 150.930. So that's impressive to see that. And Davis actually now pops into 6th, a 150.731 as he crosses the line. So he is now top THR guy. And Glatter's now going very quick in Sector 2, up by almost half a tenth. So here is the man himself, very prominent man who's raced in FSR and also over at race department in the Le Mans series as well. So very used to racing in GT cars as well, as is Marius Golombek and also Tim Heinemann. They're no stranger to running in the GT class, so not running in endurance races. So the cars like this Cup, this Flat 6 Cup car is not going to be something they're going to be adverse to. There's the luminous pink car, I think, of Ollie Marius Mjörvold pulling to the side, so you can't miss that one.
Yeah, and Talberg's second. Talberg goes to P2 there.
Incredible job. He's only half a tenth off his teammate, and let's see what Glatter can do to get himself up there. He comes across the line. He goes to P2. So incredibly, Spade Racing lock out the first 2 rows in their first ever, I believe it's their first ever qualifying session in TPS, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong on that one, Danny, or anyone else who's listening on that one. But
no, that's
David
correct.
Quick
This
is
is their
still.
first series, yeah.
And Quick is still.
Yeah,
he's a thousandth up in Sector 1.
Just want to point out, look where Eric Strana is at in 10th position. Remember, Strana, like we covered in the pre-race show, that he was the fastest guy through pre-qual. Now down to 10th position. So kind of shows that maybe not all the cards are put on the table from these drivers in pre-qual. Well, and there's one of the GT Competizione cars going sideways out the second Lesmo there. So hopefully he's obviously this is going to end the session. These guys are on their final lap here. Obviously they're going to be allowed to finish this lap, and then that's going to cut off our quality session. So I mean, doesn't look like there's anyone purple at the moment. Looks like it's going to be spade, and spade
Well,
to lock out your top 4.
Pipo Rodriguez is very fast at the moment. He's only 1/10 down. He's now in the final sector, coming up to Parabolica, the driver for GT Competizione.
Yeah, he is. He's only about a tenth down on the Spade Racing guys. Here we go out the Parabolica. And people, he was, I think, the quickest driver outside. I think for the GP Competizione through the week of testing. I think it was the 4th fastest time on live races. We'll see what he can do as he crosses the stripe. Wow.
P4.
Yes.
Immediately gets then duped by Tim Heinemann. That didn't last long, did it? P4 for a split second, and then it's taken away again. So Pipo Rodriguez up to P5. He is effectively best of the rest.
And Stranis on the very good lap.
And Silva's gone to P6. So GT Competizione lock out row 3, and we're looking at Strana. So down on the brakes he comes for the Parabolica to the last turn. The man, as we said, quickest in pre-qualifying in the ice cold racing car. The man who's arguably on form. He's had podiums in the podiums in both races of the Mini Championship. He's also won races on the Tollens Local Clios at the end of the season, and also in the Virtual V8 Supercars. And what can he do here in qualifying with this flying lap across the line? He goes to P2
There it
with
is.
a 150.349, 3500ths off. So an incredible effort by Strana to put himself onto the front row of the grid and to split the Spade Racing cars and to deny them a domination of the first 2 rows in their first ever TPS qualifying session. The flag has now fallen.
I believe Davis. I think Davis is still on the lap. He's about to go through. Here we go. Picking up with Davis. Can he now? I'm not sure where he is on this lap. He goes off, and I think that is going to. I think he's
aborted. He has aborted.
Yeah.
So we have a grid, and we'll go through it when we get to the warm-up lap. So we've got warm-up in moments. The first qualifying session is over. The first race of the inaugural TPS Virtual Carrera Cup is coming up next, live, after these messages. Stay with us.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
And welcome back to live coverage of this, the opening 2 races of the inaugural TouringProSeries Virtual Carrera Cup. But of course, it's one of 4 winter championships we have going on over this winter 2013-2014 period. The next upcoming race is going to be the second meeting for the Virtual Mini Challenge that will be taking place at Jacarapagua this coming Tuesday, so be sure not to miss that one. An electric first couple of races at Curitiba is sure to buck the trend for the rest of the championship. That is next Tuesday. Following from that, the upcoming Saturday, this time next week, is going to be the next round of the Virtual Supertech Series. Now, apologies, we didn't have a broadcast for the first round. We had some technical problems on that one, but the second round of the championship is coming up from the Circuito de Jerez. It's one of the very few races that we have on the calendar that is outside Brazil, because of course it's based on the Brazilian V8 Stock Car Championship, and that will happen next Saturday at 10 to 6 in the evening. And then the following Tuesday after that, we have the next round of what was a fantastic opening championship for the brand new Virtual Touring Masters, the all-new look Virtual Touring Masters with the DRM Group 5 race cars. Their second round from Salzburg Ring takes place on the following Tuesday at the beginning of December, the 4th of December on that one. That will start at 7:45. So, back to proceedings here today at Monza, and what I will do is there is your top 10 at least, and to run you through the grid I will leave you in the capable hands of Mr. Danny Asbury to take you through our 32 car grid for race 1. Danny.
2 minutes left in warm up. On pole position, Marius Gullenbeck for Spade Racing with that 150.3, about 3/10 off what we saw the top time from the week of testing. Eric Strana with an absolutely magical lap and a clutch lap to put Ice Cold Racing on that front row. Tim Heinemann is on P3 for Spade Racing, just behind his teammate Aaron Strana there. Sasha Glada there in the second row for Spade Racing as well. Jasper Tallberg, third row for Spade Racing as well. You've seen a lot of those drivers there with that 150.3. So it's tremendously tight, half a tenth within the first 5 positions there. Pipo Rodriguez for GT Competizione, 6th position. with Diogo Silva straight on behind his teammate in 7th position. Simon Kieloff is the first precision driver, and that's very odd to say that in 8th position, with Toby Davis, the first of the THR runners, in 9th. Sheldon van der Linde is for Infinity there in 10th position, rounds out your top 10 with Chris Butcher, another THR driver there in 11th. Oliver Ernst there for Core Motorsports, 12th position with Yoko Gorange, Core Racing 13th. Emil Solberg, another Ice Cold Racing driver, actually outqualifies Eric Tveit to get 14th there, with Alexander Lauriton in 15th for Precision Motorsports. Diogo Quaresma there for GT Competizione, and GT Competizione is looking extremely strong here to start this championship, with Miguel Cordosa there in 17th, Eric Tveit in 18th for Ice Cold, with Fabio Asancio there for Go Speed in 19th. Florian Voita for Optimum Sim Racing 20th, 21st Boyd Bryson, Core Racing. Chris Hackett, another Core Racing driver, with Kenneth Yerman for THR, and David Yunt also for THR. And now, is that going to round off our, actually it's not going to round off our grid there. We have in 25th, old Marias Miraval for It Gets Better Racing there for 25th position. Lee Palmer, Ice Cold, 26th. Gary Lennon, another Ice Cold Racing driver for 27th. Rounding out our field is Mate Orban, who ran a top 10 pre-quali time for Optimum Sim Racing, rounds out our field there in 28th. Well, actually, Kevin van der Linde did not get a time there, I don't think, or is it actually class 29th? So that's going to be, I know, I'm sorry, he actually is in there, but I think Mate Orban is going to round up our field there. So that's going to let's get us right into the race here, Scott. I mean, who do you got to win this one? Sorry for the late prediction here, but I mean, which way are you going here?
This is going to be a tough one because you've got 4 of Spade Racing stable are up there, trying to battle for the race victory. Looking very competitive. Drivers such as Peter Rodriguez and Eric Strana, especially on the front row, have put themselves in the cats amongst the Spade Racing pigeons, if you like. Also, we've got some strong drivers. Simon Kieloff's good to come through the field. Usually we get drivers such as Toby Davis and Chris Butcher can. That's quite a long shot. They could get something decent if they stay out of trouble. Then again, 32 of these Flat 6 Cup cars charging down towards the Rettifilo off the start. There's always probably going to be fireworks as they head off onto their one and only formation lap. I think it's going to be tough. I think I'm probably going to call that if Strana can get a good start and get himself ahead of Golombek and then able to defend for obviously the 17 laps, which is obviously going to be no easy feat, he could potentially take it if he drives smart. But I think that if he can't manage that, then possibly it's going to be one of the Spade Racing cars. I think that these guys, Golombek, Heinemann, Glatter, and Tolborg, are probably so good. I think for this, it's hard to split them. I think if I have to sort of put money maybe on one of them, because of course he's raced so long in TPS, probably I'd put it on probably Tolborg from 5th place, because he has surprised us on a few occasions come through the field. What about you guys? How are you seeing this go this way? Who's your money on?
Well, you know, I wanted to go Tolberg. At my heart saying Tolberg. I would love to see him take his the maiden victory at Spade Racing here. But I'm actually going to go Tim Heinemann there in 3rd position. Strana's in a tremendously tough spot, going against 4 other Spade Racing drivers inside the top 5. Can he really survive against that many other cars all working together to get him in behind? So I'm gonna go Heinemann there in 3rd position. Rob, what about you?
I was just following Stranda here, and he always went into the wall warming up his tires, so he's trying really hard. But I'm going with Marius Golombek for this race, because he told me before the race that he's got pretty good race paces. His times don't really drop off over full race stint. So I think he will take his first TPS win here. Also, a little update on Kevin van der Linde. He's actually starting in 13th position. He just disconnected during the qualifying session.
Okay.
You can see all these guys trying to warm up their tyres on these cars, using all the track and a bit more. So it's a miracle we didn't have 1 or 2 spinners. But what we will say is that, of course, for these Flat 6 race cars, is that obviously they look like Flat 6 race cars. They sound like Porsche. They look like Porsche Cup cars. They sound like Porsche Cup cars, and they drive like them. But they're not actually Porsche Cup cars. These cars were supposed to be their own standalone mod for NG racers. But then, of course, Porsche came in and said, well, you haven't got my license, so you can't technically call them Porsches, so they've been named after the engine which is in the back of these things, which is the Flat 6, so it's known as the Flat 6 Racer. And of course, it's a perfect machine to kick off what is set to be possibly a very hotly contested championship, especially with the quality of the field we have in this top sector. And you see Maris Gollenbeck, the pole man, look at the whole field weaving this way and that to keep those heat into the tyres. And the charge down towards turn 1 is certainly going to be one where it's all going to be fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed, that we get through cleanly and don't have too many incidents. But of course, quickly guys, there's no guarantee of that because of course it is Touring Pro Series, and of course touring cars means panel bashing. So quick thoughts before we start. Is it going to be a clean first corner, or are we going to get carnage?
I certainly hope so, Scott. This is something I think the TPS has kind of struggled with recently. Just to start this winter championship, these guys really need to be mindful to make it clean through the start. I do want to watch what's going on with GT Competizione starting. Obviously 6th and 7th, Pipo Rodriguez and Diogo Silva. I do think these guys have a chance to get on podium because they have that team, their teammates. They can work together. Can they crack this spade lineup at the front of the field? I think they might have something up their sleeve here, Scott.
Well, I just followed Toby Davis here, and he's lining up, in the middle of the track, trying to get a perfect start.
Signature Toby.
Absolutely.
And I think he can make up lots of positions here, but I don't really think it will be enough for the win. And I hope for a clean start. And lights are on.
Well, we'll get the lights up then. The first race of the Virtual Carrera Cup is about to go. Lights out, and we're racing in Monza for the first time. And a decent start already from Maris Gollenbeck as Toby Davis is one of the THR orange cars trying to squeeze through the middle. And Strana's holding on to second, and is that I think Heineman's went slightly wide. He's on the grass. Whoa! There was a twitch, and there's 2 spade cars off in the background. But so far it's Gollenbeck through the first corner cleanly from Strana.
Heineman is out. He's got a technical problem. I think he blew his engine.
I think he blew his engine. Heineman and Glatter are gone. And we've lost one with GT Competizione cars as well. That's Miguel Cardozo as well. Kelvin van der Linde's gone as well because he's down to 29th. So what on earth has gone on here? We've lost like 3 or 4 cars. We've lost Glatter, Heineman, Cardozo, and van der Linde's down in 29th. He's stopped on the run down towards the first corner, and he's out of the race also. And it's all engine problems.
Yes,
now that's intriguing because I'm not sure what's gone on there at all. But back at the front, Maris Gollenbeck leads it from Strana in second, Tolborg in third, Kielov.
Yeah,
6th and 7th, and Pipo Rodriguez is down to 8th.
We talked about this, remember, before the race started, that these guys have to watch their engines, and usually that's on the downshift. These guys actually over-rev the start up the race here, and it blew.
Tolborg is going for second place. I'm sorry to interrupt. He's really putting Strana on pressure now.
It's going to be hard to make this move stick here through the Ascari. Talking to drivers, it's very hard to get a run out of here, even in the draft, because you're going up here, obviously you're going to have a heavy braking zone. You cannot make this move stick on the outside, and you're right. It looks like Tolberg's just going to stay in behind Strana, hold third position, and things actually stay status quo there at the front. Obviously, we lost Henneman there from Spade Racing. I'll be tremendously disappointed about that. But just to finish the point about these engines, it looks like we lost 2 guys just because they over-rev at the start, which is absolutely just heartbreaking for those guys, because that's one of those things you might not test that much as a driver. Actually, we lost 4 guys to this.
Tolborg's going for it. Tolborg's going for it, and I think he's through.
And also we've got the 2 THR guys side by side.
Oh, Gollenbeck goes wide.
Is that Pipo Rodriguez trying to make it through?
Gollenbeck spun and got hit by Strana.
Gollenbeck's around, and they're all off. What on earth has gone on? Both the TPS orange cars is off. Gollenbeck is now beached on the curb at the Retifidio. There I think there's Kevin German as well. There's Flat 6 Cup cars every which way. We're seeing now that's Gollenbeck rejoining without a front bumper completely. The front bumper and the foot splitter's gone. He's now going 3 wide, I think it looks like, with David Junt. And that's absolute carnage. So we didn't get carnage down towards turn 1 on lap 1. It's down towards turn 1 on lap 2.
I'm wondering if we can run that back. I'm curious if Gollenbeck just lost that completely on his own there and got marooned there.
I think he did.
What happened was Gollenbeck braked far too late for the first corner, and went wide into the first corner, spun back onto the track and got hit by Strana.
That was Butcher spinning in sympathy also there as well as he rejoined. You saw there on the left, car number 2.
And look who's leading. Look who's leading.
He's gone. Tolberg is gone at this point. I mean, that's exactly what he was looking for right there.
And also, in the background, is that Simon Kielov making a pass possibly for second? I think it might be. They're side by side through the Ascari, but somehow Strana's missing a front bumper also, so that's going to really hurt the front downforce. And he's now got Kielov. Oh, and that was also, I think that might have been Alexander Lauritsen right off on the grass, but it could have been lag. Now down the back straight down towards Parabolica, looking at Pipo Rodriguez. He's now Diogo Silva, in fourth position. Looking back at Keeloff, who's having a look down the inside of Strana, who's left the door open at Parabolica, but the two cars are going to go side by side, and I think Keeloff has forced Strana to take the wider line, and a bit of classy driving from Simon Keeloff to take second position from Strana, but now
that was an excellent move.
Run down
but he's
the
got
pit
the run.
straight. Down the pit straight, they're now side by side. They're almost touching doors at 170 odd miles an hour. Down under the brakes, they'll become in a second, and it's hard to see who's going to get it now. Diogo Silva braking incredibly, trying to go around the outside. Brakes a little too deep, gets it over the car. Look at that in the background. That's Peter Rodriguez. These guys really aren't judging their braking points very well, because now that's Toby Davis now going to the inside, going past Peter Rodriguez. And look at 7th place, Sheldon van der Linde up to P7. This is incredible. His brother Kelvin didn't make it even past the first corner because of engine problems, but his brother Sheldon upholding the van der Linde name and doing an incredible job. And now at the inside possibly of Peter Rodriguez for 6th position. As he got it, tried to brake himself. There was contact, I think, because someone's off in the front. I'm not sure. That might have been wide on the gravel. And now we've got van der Linde defending now in the background from Lauritsen. And from also, who is that behind? Is that Rodriguez? I think it is. And I think Rodriguez isn't too happy because he might have felt he got some contact. That's now allowed Lauritsen in the back on his inside. So much frantic racing going on here at Monza. It's only lap 3, guys. This is incredible.
Well, listen, I mean, we thought this was just going to be a spade lockout as we're looking back on the game pod wing from Sheldon van der Linde, watching Pipo Rodriguez and Alexander Lauritsen go at it here. Going into the Scar chicane. It looks like that's going to stay status quo, even though Lauritsen's going to have a lunge. It looks like Rodriguez is going to hold. But Spade Racing looked like they had a vice grip on this race. Now we only have one Spade driver inside the top 10. It's absolutely mind-boggling what we're looking at. We're looking at Spade Ice Cold Precision GT Competizione, and Lauritsen continues to have a look at Pipo Rodriguez here.
Keeloff into second. And Strana tries to get the cut back. Gets the cut back. Amazing how Strana can drive so fast with his damaged car.
I have been wondering about that. I mean, it looks like that car is okay to continue on in this race. Maybe Strana not as quick as he was originally, but still, he's fighting for this podium position like I don't know what. But again, we are still on board with this Pipo Rodriguez against Lauritsen battle. Lauritsen does have the advantage here going into this first corner, and it looks like I think Lauritsen has this move pretty much done. It's hard to make the move stick around the outside here, and yes, that is the case. Lauritsen in the 7th position.
So let's just take stock of how it looks in the top 10. We've got Jesper Tolborg leading by an incredible 5.3 seconds. I did say possibly he could be a dark horse for victory, but I had no idea that was going to happen, and certainly no idea he was going to run off at such a pace this early on in the event in this opening round. Eric Strana is now second, now sans a bonnet and a front bumper. So if he wasn't any front end grip, he certainly hasn't got very much now, and he's just putting a small gap now to 3rd place Simon Keeloff, of course, for Precision Motorsports. 4th is now Diogo Silva for GT Competizione. 5th position, Sheldon van der Linde. What a drive so far from Kelvin's brother for Infinity Esports Racing. They will certainly be rubbing their hands in the garage there. Toby Davis up to 6th. Lauritsen's now 7th. Pipo Rodriguez now currently sits 8th. With Eric de Veit up into the top 10 in 9th position, with Chris Butcher rounding out the top 10. 10.4 seconds is what separates the top 10. And then we've got drivers such as Joko Gorenc for Core Racing, Oliver Ernst, one of the independents, I think, as well. And Fabio Assunção is the top Go Speed driver in 13th place, but he's 13.8 seconds off the lead.
Yeah, in that mid-pack battle, like you said, there's got Joko Gorenc here. Actually, one of the most successful drivers ever at Race to Play. So this guy really knows how to drive a touring car, one of these 10 top machines, just outside this top 10, driving for, like I said, Core Racing, Core Motorsports. Can he hold on with Oliver Ernst in there, right behind him, just outside this top 10? You're seeing Chris Butcher has snuck up in the 10th. Eric de Veit, remember, he started 18th on the grid, up to 9th place already. Ice Cold sorely need him to have a good round here. And I do think, Scott, we're looking at one of the most, fluent teams championship we've seen in a while here in TPS. As Strana retakes position from Simon Keeloff. So again, you have Spade, you have Ice Cold, you have Precision, you have GT Competizione, you have Sheldon van der Linde there, all 5 different team outfits inside the top 5. It's absolutely wonderful. You're going to see one of the most mixed up teams championships after all things are said and done, I think, through this first round here.
I think we just saw Eric de Veit outbrake himself, run down towards the Retafilio. That's now allowed Chris Butcher through. So he's now up into P9 and de Veit back into the final spot in the top 10. And now we look back from car number 2, Chris Butcher, as we watch Eric de Veit sliding all over the place over the curbs of the Roger chicane. And of course he's going to have to be careful because, of course, as we just mentioned him, Joko Gorenc is now looming large in P11 and spies himself a top 10 finish if he can get it. And looking back down the rest of it, we've still lost those 4 cars, of course, Glatter, Heinemann, and also Kelvin van der Linde, and there was also another driver as well. I think it was Quaresma as well. We're now looking at Marius Golombek, who's, despite losing his front bumper in the first lap on the first chicane in lap 2, is back up to P15, so that is showing him his ultimate pace. The man who was on pole position and the man who was leading the first lap had that mistake at the chicane, and now is charging his way back through the field to see if he can salvage any kind of results. And he's battling with Lee Palmer in one of the core racing cars for P15, and now lining up Kenneth German in the first of the THR cars as he runs very wide on the exit, kicking up the dust over the gravel on the run out of Ascari. Shows you how hard he's pushing. And guys, of course, with the pace that he's setting, do you possibly think there's still 12 odd laps to go? Do you think possibly a top 10 at least could be on the cards for Marius here?
Alright, so he's about, I want to say, 7 seconds off to Veit, who's in 10th position at the moment. That's a tall order, especially when you're dealing with the quality of a Veit inside the top 10. Veit, as you're seeing here, or this is Eric Strong continuing to fight with Kielhoff, but it's a tall order for Golombek to get back inside the top 10. I do give Golombek credit for fighting in this race. Obviously, he's to blame pretty much for his misfortune, as it were. But to lose the front bumper in the state, keep your head down, to rise up from 24th to 15th position, I give the guy credit. He's staying with it. And see, now we're looking at the TPS veterans. We're watching Toby Davis right now. Talberg's leading the race. These guys just know how to handle themselves in these big touring car races when things can get a little hairy a little early. So these guys have managed to survive this kind of carnage, and not ridiculous carnage we've seen. We're just kind of seeing guys make honest mistakes out there. I think Spade Racing pretty much to blame for their own misfortune in this race, with obviously blowing their engine and then spinning their cars, as it were. But we're seeing Tauber, we're seeing Davis. These kind of guys rise up through the field. And Sheldon Van der Linde is getting a run out that second leg.
Here he comes.
Yeah, he's going to have a look on Davis. This is going to be hard to pull off, Scott, around and going into the Ascari chicane. Not sure if he can do it.
He's trying. He's trying.
He's got that done.
He's trying to go around the outside. Can he pull this off Sheldon Van der Linde? Can he pull a great move? They're going to be side by side again to the chicane. And Davis holds the inside line for the last part of Ascari. Oh, that was contact. I think there's a bit of a touch from Rodriguez. But still, Sheldon Van der Linde, the younger brother of Kelvin, who I'm pretty sure is giving him some guidance here as to where to move. He's probably saying go to the inside, and that's exactly what he's doing. So this is now Davis looking to try and hold on to the 5th place he just took for Sheldon a lap ago. And Sheldon's now forcing his way up the inside. This guy is his first ever TPS race against the man who's won, of course, the Virtual Carrera Cup and raced so many times in TPS. And he's actually been challenged by the younger brother of Kelvin Van der Linde. This is incredible stuff. They'll go side by side down the pit straight. But Sheldon Van der Linde has the inside line. And behind, that's Rodriguez and Veit also battling over P7. We'll carry on watching P5. As down under the braking zone, who's last of the late breakers? It's going to be Sheldon. Holding on.
Rodriguez!
Rodriguez is over and around. Rodriguez was on his roof, and that was, I think, possibly him just trying to get it stopped and just couldn't get the car anchored up in time. Incredibly, he's carried on. But guys, let's look back at this, and how lucky Tito Rodriguez not to be suffering any more damage than he did. We look at the replay here. Just underbrake, loses the back end, hits the sleeping policeman, the anti-cut, rolls the car. He's lucky not to get it reached on the curb and gets it back going again. How incredibly lucky is People to still be in this race.
Well, here's the thing. It looked like he completely overcooked his braking zone, and I do give him credit. Instead of going straight into the back of the car in front, he takes his car sideways, pretty much yields spinning the car to avoid hitting another driver. It looked ugly when we originally saw it, but it was actually very good defensive driving, I guess, from People Rodriguez to kind of keep that contact only to himself. So it looked ugly, but he carries on. Hopefully the other cars around him do as well, as we're seeing this battle between Golombek. You continue to surge through this field. Lee Palmer's in this one. Fabio
taking 2 places in one move, and they're always going 3 wide.
Looking at that gap to 10th position, which is now Yoko Gorange, I think, you know what, Scott? Mr. Golombek might have a chance at this just yet. I mean, he's up there to 13th position, and it looks like he just has these cars mastered at this point. Can he now fight back to get within the top 10? It certainly would be good to watch here, as we're watching the ice-cold driver of Lee Palmer now trying to outside move. Again, on the Parabolica, this is extremely hard to do.
Oh!
Palmer's up!
That was never going to work, Lee. I commend him for effort and credit where credit's due. He tried it around the outside, but just turned a bit too much, and that's the end result. And he rejoins, and here's a replay of it then. So looking now on board with Palmer, and we see under brakes from Parabolica. There's Rodriguez to our right, and yeah, that was Quaresma, sorry, Diego Quaresma, and that's the end result, unfortunately, and he's now off on the run. He's going to rejoin, but he's back down in 23rd position. He's got Chris Hack to keep him for company. He's about 8/10 back, and let's bring obviously Rob in this one. And Rob, looking at the pace so far, Jesper leads by 8.8. Of course, you've raced with Jesper before. Of course, you've had him as a THR driver, so you've been a chance to work with him. I guess Tolborg in this kind of situation where if he's out in front, he has the race pace. It's no real surprise to see him out in front by 8.8 seconds, is it?
Well, I think with this lead that he has now, he will not make a mistake. I think he will bring this, to the end, over the line, win the race. I think he was a bit lucky to get into the position, but if you get Tolborg in this position, that's perfect for him. But he's also helped a bit by Stranda and Kilov just fighting so hard for second place. And they've been swapping positions all the time, and now Silva has caught up to them as well.
Well, you can see that Kilov has now taken second place finally after very stern defensive driving from Eric Strana. And so now this means that Kilov now controls the pace of best of the rest in some ways. And they now head down towards the Parabolica. And we'll see if Kilov can hold on to it. I would tell you anything, but my viewer has frozen for a second, so I'm just waiting to see if it actually comes up in a second to see what's going on. There we go. And I can now see that Kilov is all over the rear wing, has now got Strana all over the rear wing of him. This is exactly role reversal. So the hunter has now become the hunted, and I'll come again down the pit straight. And once again, my viewers froze. So Danny, you might as well take over because I can't. Oh, it's like I'm back again, and Strana just holding on.
Well, we're right on board Diogo Silva looking at this battle, and I think it's only a matter of time before both Strana and Kilov run their tires off. So if Silva continues to be patient, he's got about 4 laps to work with here. Obviously, 13 laps is the race distance. If he can just wait for those guys to make mistakes, Silva can be on for a podium position. As we're watching Toby Davis, who's gotten back around Sheldon van der Linde here with a very nice run into the first chicane, timed that one perfectly. Remember, van der Linde, just a slight stat correction, this is not his first race in TBS. Was actually with us maybe for about 3 races 2 years ago. He would go against the first of the Lesmos here. Toby Davis holds on to it. The thing is, though, I remember Sheldon, he got Toby Davis a few laps back by timing it perfectly into the Parabolica. You have to get on the inside of that corner. I think that's the biggest overtaking opportunity you might have on the circuit, the way it's kind of played out this afternoon. But this move here again, Scott, into the sky, I don't see this one working out here. I think van der Linde needs to pull out of it, but he's going to go for it nonetheless. Can Toby Davis defend it?
Ooh, well, he's had to go over the curbs and anti-cuts, and somehow Toby's kept in front. What I was talking about before is that what I was concentrating on more was about the Strana and Kilov are going at it once again, but we'll carry on with this battle here. Van der Linde with a better run out of Ascari down towards Parabolica. We sweep around the outside. Well, Davis is now going to make him work for it and forcing Sheldon wide almost onto the gravel. That's probably going to allow a few more cars up the inside, including Toby's teammate Chris Butcher. Here comes the cavalry for THR. Chris Butcher has that perfect toe from Davis now. Looking to the inside, they're going to be 3 wide, but careful, Chris has to give him. They're going to go 4 wide down towards the rest of Fido. Surely not, boys. Come on, don't be silly. And Van Linde's been shot out. More contact. He's been. I think that was that Butcher hit by Van Linde. I think it was. And Davis and now Tavite have made contact. And somehow they've all come out of it relatively unscathed. And the winner of that one was Chris Butcher, up from technically 7th to 5th in one move.
That was a bit dodgy. Butcher obviously goes to the side, makes it 4 wide, gets around, overtakes 3 cars in the process. I wonder how Toby Davis, looks like Toby Davis is not going to yield to his teammate whatsoever. It's going to stick his nose inside here on the chicane and gets Chris out the way. Says, no, you're not taking that position from me, man. I'm going to not allow you to. Obviously a little bit hairy there in the first corner, but these guys sort out nonetheless. You're seeing precision there, starting to tuck in behind these guys. I mean, the THR needs to get this sorted out and then just try to break a gap here to fight Sheldon van der Linde and Lorton in behind. Bad run out the second Lesmo from Butcher, and that's one allowed Tavite to have a nice look at him here into the Scari. Again, we've seen this move, it doesn't work. I mean, these guys really need to pull out of it, but Tavite, he's going to position his car up the inside. And he thinks better of it, gets right in behind Chris Butcher, and now I think he needs to have a run up to the parabolic and get on the inside. That's how he can get that move done. Now Ryan on board at the front. Eric Strana rather, is now looking back to Diogo Silva, who's now looking even more menacing with about 3 laps to go here, Scott.
So Strana now is pressure from Diogo Silva, the best of the GT Competizione guys, as they head their way back onto the pit straight to start lap 12, and all a little bit wide from Strana, and that could be all the invitation that Silva needs to get a run. But so far it seems straight line speed wise it's better. As we look back now to Van der Linde, who's now under pressure from Alexander Lauritsen, and also in the back we've got Goric and Eric Tvite's dropped back even further. He's dropped back 3 more spots to P10. He's trying to go down the outside of Goric, and can he get that one stuck? He almost can. I think he does, and just about avoids hitting the back of Lauritsen. So Van der Linde is almost shuffled back through the order. And what's intriguing is just in front, the 2 THR orange guys of Davis and Critchby, who have now swapped places. They are starting to break away, using the toe with each other. So that's smart tactics there from the 2 THR guys in front. As now in the background, Goric is now having a look at Tvite as the 2 THR guys go across the chicane at the Rogia. There was a small piece of contact. I didn't see them go side by side into the chicane, but I didn't expect them to make contact. Here's a replay of it then, guys. Down towards the Rogia. You can see that is, I think this is now Butcher with a run on his teammate, and just makes a dive, just can't get it stopped, and then just tags the left rear quarter of his teammate, and that sends them both across the chicane, but thankfully not into the barriers or across the gravel, and doesn't lose them too much time. So what's intriguing is that the 2 THR guys are actually getting involved with each other, and the harder they fight, it's going to cause the guys around them to start closing in, including Van der Linde, who's also bringing Lauritsen with him.
Yeah, I just spoke to Chris Butcher and Toby Davis, and it was not contact on purpose. They're trying to work together, but they are struggling a bit at the moment.
Just a quick update from the back. We have Marius Gullenbeck was in an incident with Joko Goric there. Goric is now out of the race. These guys made contact, I believe, in the first sector of the circuit. Goric is now out of the race. But Sanchio, rather, Gullenbeck is now still fighting for P12. So it looks like he's able to carry on, but Goric is now out of the race.
Here's a shame. So Marius Gullenbeck is in P12, and just behind him we've now got Emil Solberg and Fabio Assunção battling for Ice Cold and Ghost Beast successively. Now on board Fabio Assunção, tuck in behind the Swede as they head down towards the first chicane, and he's going to make a huge dive under braking. He might even tag Gullenbeck if he can't get it stopped. He has! And Assunção these things are very hard to get to stop under brakes, mainly because of the fact that, of course, you traffic at such high speed that the brake cooling is quite extreme. So that's why these guys, I think they run probably quite thin brake ducts if they can. But here's the replay. You see Assunção just could not get it stopped. He was so focused on battling with Solberg that it just forced him to clout the side of Gullenbeck's already damaged car. And unfortunately, poor Marius Gullenbeck has been on the wards. He's been involved in 3 separate incidents in this race, and kind of only one of which has been his own doing. Now we're back with Eric Strana in second place, a half a second advantage over Simon Kielov. But that's incredible. In fact, something happened to Kielov at some point, or Strana's been able to pick up the pace, because he has now got himself back in front into second place, which is just showing that his strength as a single driver compared to the might of Spade in THR and Precision is certainly paying off. We're looking at Diogo Silva, an incredible performance in P4 for GT Competizione, and he'll just sit here and watch and wait and see if these 2 guys in front will make any kind of mistakes and get too involved with each other in terms of trying to fight for second and third, because of course there is a podium place up for grabs here, and of course for second and third it's a case of how much higher on the podium are you and which step do you take. Is it second, one below the winner, or is it third, the lowest rung on the rostrum? We'll have to wait and see as they head on now to lap number 13, I believe, and they're now down the pit straight as they head down towards the first corner. But already Jesper Tollborg continues to dominate this race with a lead of 11 seconds. So it's incredible that it's almost kind of a case that he's been pulling out, I'm guessing, somewhere around half, 3/4 of a second a lap, guys.
I've been watching this battle here. I've been watching Silva for the last few laps here, and it just seems like he doesn't have the pace, or either the pace or the confidence to really join this battle for this podium position. It's pretty much just Strana and Kielov going right back at one another, and Silva's just, I think he's content with watching this one. This is obviously the final lap of the race. He's got to get, if he's going to join this battle, he's got to do it now. You got to think his car is in much better condition than both Kielov and Strana. So he needs to sort this out, get a run, perhaps out the Lesmos here, and now get into this battle. It's foreseeable that he could actually take a second position for GP Competizione. I think he's got to at least give this a run here. If not here, then at least going into Parabolica. Obviously, his teammate, Pipo Rodriguez, is no longer with him there inside that top 10, so he needs to hold on to as many points as possible. But can he look here and make a run at Strana, going right back at Kielhoff into the Ascari? Little contact. Here's Silva's chance. He's got the run here. Can he now maintain this run going into the Parabolica? I think he's got it. He's beside Strana. He's got that overlap. I think this is pretty much done. He just needs to stick to braking, and then he's got a podium position. But giving our leader his fair due for Spade Racing, Jasper Tauber about to take a look across the stripe here, Scott.
Oh, Strana went off. Strana on the grassy spins.
Tauber wins the race, but now if we can jump back to Strana, see exactly what happened there in the Parabolica. Was there contact? Because yeah, he's gone. He's gone there.
He has gone, and Kielhoff will just hold on to second place and on the grass. And Kielhoff takes second, Silva third, and Davis wins out in the battle of the THR Orange guys. The fourth and fifth, Lauritsen takes sixth. Sheldon van der Linden grabs seventh on his first Carrera Cup race. We've got Ernst eighth. Strana ends up ninth. Incredibly, 21.8 seconds behind the leader. Not sure what happened to him there. German 11th. Marius Golombek, who started on pole and led the first lap, ends up 12th. With Emil Solberg 13th. Ollie Marius Mierbol from near the back of the grid to 14th place. The bright pink car for the It Gets Better racing team has certainly gotten better in his fortunes. Fabio Ascensau was 15th for Go Speed, and then David Jupp for THR, Florian Werther and Matty Orban for Optum Racing, Lee Palmer for Ice Cold after his off in the gravel at Parabolica, and Chris Hack for Core Racing round out the top 20 of what has certainly been a fast and frantic opening race for the TPS Virtual Carrera Cup. Stay tuned, it's not over. We've still got one more qualifying session and one more race still to come. All the reaction from race 1 and then qualifying and race 2 coming up after these messages. Stay with us.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Welcome back to the post-race thoughts of what has been a rather entertaining opening round of the Virtual Carrera Cup. We've still got one more race to go, one more qualifying session, and then another 13 laps of the Autodromo Nazionale di Monza to go. And the opening honours goes to Jesper Tolborg, started from 5th on the grid, and was effectively really the only Spade Racing driver to finish in the top 10, because of course Palmer Marius Golombek led for the first lap and then went off. And I guess really we can kind of talk about the start and the opening couple of laps. And I think really we lost kind of 3 big players before we even got to the first corner. And we lost Sasha Glatter, Tim Heinemann, and more important, and also Kelvin van der Linde, all for engine problems. So, I mean, guys, I want to get both your thoughts on this. Do you think these guys now have to learn lessons that they cannot push their engines too hard on the start and be more moderate, and also a bit more careful on their downshifts? Because that's, as we talked about before, these guys were having engine troubles, downshifting too much or putting too much revs in. So, do you think that's something that possibly needs to be looked at for the future races?
You can go ahead on this one, Robert. Obviously, you've driven the cars a little bit more than I have. So.
Well, I think sometimes it's very difficult because all these guys they're driving at the limits and also downshifting on the limits. And sometimes at the start of the race, you have cars braking a little bit too early in front of you, and then you try to brake and try to downshift even earlier to just get better braking. And so it can happen sometimes. It's very unfortunate. I spoke to Tim Heinemann, and he said engine just went immediately, had no chance then. Same for Glatter, so it's a shame for them.
It's certainly something they're going to have to keep their mind on as they grid up for the start of race 2. Because I mean, It's such a finicky thing. I mean, your engine. I mean, this is when kind of having maybe like a plug-in, a Motec plug-in or something like that really helps, so you can watch exactly what your temperatures are at all times. Because yeah, if something like that happens, it completely kills your morale as a driver. But I mean, I'm watching some of the drivers in the post-race chat, because obviously there's about a 3-minute break before we get into Q2 here. Some of these guys are very hot under the collar. They're really going at one another. They need to kind of sort this out before they get started in the second race here. I mean, Robert, I mean, you saw what happened at the end of that first race with Strana. Could you kind of illustrate what you saw from your perspective?
What basically happened is that Strana got a very bad run out of Ascari. He was very sideways, and then he was losing time on the straight, and losing time to Kilo, who was ahead of him, and also Silva was trying to go past him. And then Strana just did extremely late braking maneuver into the Parabolica, and just completely overestimated the brakes of his car, went onto the grass, and unfortunately spun.
Yeah, we saw that kind of highlights a few of the big just driver errors we saw in this round one. The big headline was Golombek just losing it into the first corner. He said he completely missed his brake marker, and then
I got an update there on Golombek actually, and he told me that the sign which tells the number of how many meters there still is until you have to brake, the sign was gone, so he braked far too late because this was his orientation point, and then he went onto the grass, spun, got stuck on the curb, and Strana hit him.
Yeah, I mean, I saw his message as well, where he said, yeah, obviously was knocked out from a few laps before, and he just completely missed it. He completely missed his braking point, and that's how that happened like that. Then we saw again, like you said, like you just illustrated, Rob, the Strana mistake, which absolutely kind of guts him. He was having a brilliant run against Kilov, missed his front bumper, and it still looked like he was going to get, if not a podium, a top 4. That was tremendous. That would have really helped his confidence, I think, moving forward in this championship. You know, to come away with 9th, that's still solid. No, don't get me wrong. But at the same time, knowing you kind of left the podium on the table, it's going to. He needs to take a minute to kind of work past that, get his head sorted, and then come out here in Q2, get it done. We're about 30 seconds away from Q2, so these guys have now had a few minutes to calm down at the race run, get it reset. Q2 time. I mean, it's going to be an interesting one, that's for sure.
One thing which I pointed out in race 1, which I think is very prominent, is, of course, we're on a very high-speed circuit like Monza. So, of course, what's important to point out is that when it comes to braking and keeping the brakes cool, because there are some very heavy braking zones which are followed by very long straights, it gives the brakes plenty of time to cool down. So it's kind of like some of the things we had in areas such like, so like the Clios at Thruxton, where we have it where, because the cars are going at such high speeds for so long during the lap, there's plenty of chance for the brakes to cool down to such an extent that by the time you get to one of the big braking zones, you've got completely cold brakes again by the time you get to one circuit. So, of course, they heat up under braking for that chicane, but then as soon as you get to the next big braking zone, they're completely cold again. So that's probably the problem these guys are having to get these cars slowed down, because they can't keep the heat in the brakes for long enough, because simply this is probably because of the high-speed nature of the circuit. So that's something they're going to have to possibly try and think about as they come forwards into this Q2 session, which has just got underway. Another 10 minutes to try and decide who will take pole for this second race here at the opening event of the Virtual Carrera Cup. And another 32 drivers head out onto the circuit once again. So, obviously, off the back of the first qualifying session, who do we think, obviously, is? Do you think it's possibly, we think that Spade Racing are probably going to be favourites to take pole position again? So do we think possibly Golombek has got it in once more, or do we think that someone else, other maybe like Tolberg, Glatter, or Heinemann, can take the top spot on this one?
To be honest with you, I think Golombek is going to absolutely smash this one. Yes, he took the Q1 pole, but I really am impressed how he was able to keep his head on him and fight through the field with a damaged car, no less. You know, seeing what he said post-race very quickly, he didn't seem altogether too angry or whatnot. Seemed very mature about it, about his first race assessment. I do think he's going to, obviously now his car is going to feel even better now being fully repaired. I think he's going to smash this pole position here. I am curious though about Fangman, and then we have Tim Henneman, who obviously didn't even get a chance to read the race. Are these guys going to be able to now, because maybe they've been sitting watching the broadcast with the rest of our viewers. I mean, maybe, and I'm sorry, not Fangman, but Glatter. I mean, these guys have had to watch, or not, they haven't been in their cars for a little bit now. So these guys have to now get themselves refamiliarized with getting back in the zone to come out here and race to and salvage which has not been what has been kind of an okay result for Spade Racing. They really need to dig down and get a nice bag of championship points here.
And also something else is, of course, really, it was kind of an unknown quality we had with Kelvin van der Linde, of course. We talked about him quite a lot, and unfortunately he got the same engine problems that both Platter and Heinemann had, so he never even made it past the first corner. His car stopped just short of the Rettifilio. So obviously, if he can control his engine temperatures a little bit better, I would expect better from him possibly in race 2 if he can make it past turn 1.
Now, Rob, what's kind of your read on this Q2 session? Obviously, you've done quite a share of these things. I mean, what's your mentality as a driver if you didn't do what you wanted to do in race 1? How do you come out here in Q2 and kind of manage your nerves?
Well, I had that once in the mini race at Sebring where I got taken out when I was in the lead. And in the second qualifying session, I just smashed everyone and took the pole position. So that's kind of what I expect from Heinemann here. He's a very young guy, very ambitious, and I think he can take the pole position because he definitely has the pace, and now he also has the motivation in him because he didn't do too well in the first race.
Yeah, so the whole Spade team has to be highly motivated to come out here and kind of prove it's not just a bunch of hype that sees this team get all this camera time. So I mean, can these other teams? I think THR Precision, GT Competizione, they have to be very happy with how this race went. They came away. Kielov came away with a second position. GT Competizione on pole position. THR there inside the top 5. These teams have to be feeling very confident that even though they might not have the raw pace of Spade Racing, they do have that racecraft. Now Spade Racing has to prove everyone wrong that, hey, they're not just lightning in the bottle. These guys can sit down and get good championship points.
And of course, we look at all these guys, of course, at THR Precision, who are used to these 10-minute qualifying sessions. They know how to go out there and get the most out of the car and which time to do it. As Heinemann goes quickest early on with a 151.0, which is nowhere near the fastest time that we'll see. Of course, it's been something in the low 1-minute 50s, I'm pretty sure. More times coming in. We've got Lauritsen now to second, just a fractions off of Heinemann. Eric de Veit is now up to third. We've also got people like Simon Kielov and also Sheldon van der Linde, who is up there. I think we have to give a mention to Sheldon because, of course, Sheldon was able to get the spotlight out of the two Van der Linde brothers because, of course, as you said, because of Kelvin's premature exit from the race. And Sheldon, I think, really did make a name for himself in that event. He managed to get himself 7th place, but he ran as high as 5th, despite qualifying outside the top 10. So that has to be a really impressive run from Sheldon, and hopefully that could be a sign of more things to come. He certainly seems to have the racecraft, at least, to be able to come to the field and overtake relatively cleanly.
He looked very good going against Davis. I will have to give him that. And he had kind of the raw pace to stay within that top 10. So far, we're seeing Kielov on provisional pole with a 50.6. Remember, that is, of course, with the cold tires. It takes a while for these things to get up to temperature. I think the fastest kind of cold tire time we saw in Q1 was about a 50.5. So the fact that Kielov is this quick, this early, this means maybe we'll see something maybe about 50.2 by the time these tires get up to temperature. We're seeing his teammate here, Alexander Lauritsen, quickest through Sector 2. He's so far purple. Right now he sits in provisional 4th with a 151 flat, really. So can he now improve? Sheldon van der Linde improves to 13th overall. Toby Davis is also in the purple sector, but we'll stay with Lauritsen here as he's going through the Parabolica, trying to take pole position away from his teammate, Simon Kielov. He needs a nice run out of here. Looks very well timed here. Hopefully these tires are up to temperature enough that it's gripping that corner to give him a nice run onto the straight. We'll see what he's got coming to the line here. What can Lauritsen do here in this Q2 session? He goes third with a 150.6, so just behind both Kielov and Eric de Veit, who are also on 150.6s as well. So far, everything stays status quo with about 4 minutes left to go here.
Well, de Veit's actually just up there. He's only, look at that, 200ths off of Kielov's fastest time so far, so he really is charging. Here's Sheldon van der Linde, and he's now in obviously he hasn't set a time yet, so he's now charging up towards what could be, in fact, he has set a time, so 151.482. Seems as though he is able to take advantage of a better race pace than qualifying pace, if we're fair. And as he heads down towards the end, he's only, look at that, he's seeing a brilliant pace. In fact, look at that, only 6500ths off
he's there
the whole time. Yeah. And that's, at the moment, would put him much higher up the grid than his teammate, than obviously brother Kelvin, who is currently 13th Well, he was, but he's now 14th. He's at 15th now as more time start to come through. We've got Sasha Glatter and Kenneth German are both on purple sectors. Sheldon Van Linden brings his Infinity Sports Racing Flat 6 racer on to the pit straight out of the Parabolica and will shoot for the line. And where will this put him? Has he found any time in the final sector? We'll wait and see. Cross line. This is looking very quick. In fact, cross line he comes. He goes to P2. And Tony Davis has gone quickest. So Davis is on provisional pole, and Sheldon Van der Linde pumps in at the second fastest time of the session so far. But
here comes Spade. Here they come. Yeah, here comes the Spade guys. Remember, they were able to go 50.3 in Q1. They've got 3 drivers now.
Wow, 50.2.
Yeah, there it is. There it is.
Quarter of a second up on Davis.
Yeah,
Heinemann goes 4th.
Toby's going to have to push himself. All the drivers going to have to push themselves now. I think Keeloff can match that pace considering what he did early. Tveit improves just a little bit, but it looks like these times might even come to that 150.1 prediction that we had in that Q1 session. I do want to talk about a few drivers since we're in Q here just now. Mate Orban and both Florian Voita. I mean, Voita, he was actually slated to be in Division 2 to start this thing, but he winds up gets a promotion rather to Division 1. Remember, Voita is coming from GT Academy, the German series, where that's where he met up with Florian Strauss, who won the competition outright. And now Voita decided to join TPS after Florian said that's where he really learned how to be a world-class driver, so to speak. So Voita is now with us here, but we are riding on board with one of the Spade drivers, with Sasha Glatter, who's so far in 3rd position with that 150.5 time. Toby Davis still on this 150.4, and now the times are really starting to get hung up in that 150.5 section, Scott. So these drivers have to find some way to get that maybe 10th. And then they can be on pole position, or if not, on the front row.
Absolutely, and of course we talk about Florian Strauss. It's of course massive congratulations to him from all of us at TPS for securing the GT Academy Germany title. I know in fact he was racing over here in England in the Brit Car Endurance Championship with one of the 2 GT Academy PlayStation Nissan 370Zs, and he was actually taking part in the final round of the Brit Car Endurance Championship in the Donington night race that they were taking part in. So I can't remember exactly where he finished, but I know he did finish the race at least. So we are now into the last minute of the session, and Gollenbeck is now quickest so far with a 150.258. Tolborg we're now looking at is Tim Heinemann pops in a 150.389 to go second. So currently it is Spade Racing first and second. Toby Davis splits the four Spade cars in third. Glasser's now 4th ahead of Tolborg again in 5th. We've got Eric Tveit now in 6th, Simon Keelov in 7th, and Sheldon Van Linde up in 8th position, with Alexander Lauritsen and Diogo Silva in 10th. Other drivers, notably Eric Strano, started on the front row of the grid for race 1, is only 11th out of the top 10. Pipo Rodriguez is down in 14th. Kelvin Van der Linde is down in 15th, so majorly out-qualified by his brother. He's 10 spots back down the grid. Chris Butcher down in 19th place in this qualifying session. That's rather surprising to see that. So some of the bigger names, some of the guys who finished up in the top 10 in race 1, not exactly setting the same pace in qualifying for race 2 here, Danny. It's quite a surprise to see that, and it's good to see we get to see a few other drivers who their qualifying didn't exactly go to plan the first time around, but this time around they're able to put in those key laps and able to get themselves further up the grid for this second race.
Yeah, Boyd Bison went 9th. He just got bumped off by Mr. Chris Butcher. I would like to get on board with Eric Strano. Remember, he ran a last second lap in that Q1 session to get up on the front row. Strano, I remember he had a great drive in race 1. Just fell away, obviously, at the end, about 3/10 off. Oh no, Strano is a little bit. He's struggling to come to terms with on this car in a consistent pace. Or consistent way in quality, because remember the first in Q1 he was nowhere. At the end he finally gets that together, having a bit of an interesting moment with one of the Optimum Sim Racing drivers there, but he gets around about 3/4 off of the time by Marius Gollenbeck, who I predicted to be on pole position, Thalberg in 2nd position, Heinemann in the 3rd. Actually, Spade 1, 2, 3, 4. Ken trying to do something about this. He's going across the line. I don't think he's got it in him. We'll see what the time says as he hits the stripe. Only a 12, Scott. Wow. A lot of work to do from Eric Strana in this second race. He's not going to be happy with that whatsoever, considering he finished race 1 only in 9th position.
Glatter goes second though in as the flag drops. That's 150.315. only half a tenth or so off the pole time. And so, how about that for Spade Racing? They lock out the first 2 rows for race 2, and best of the rest is Toby Davis in 5th as Sasha Glatt allows his car to run off into the barriers. I'm sure that Spade will appreciate that very much. Eric de Veit much better qualifying this time to get P6. Simon Kilo is now in P7 with Sheldon van der Linde in 8th, out qualifying his brother by some margin. 9th is Chris Butcher, and Boyd rounds out top 10. Flag is now dropped. I think we might have 1 or 2 cars still possibly out there trying to set times, at least on the circuit. So what we'll do is we'll step away for 2 seconds whilst these guys finish their laps. And of course, in fact, Toby Davis is going quicker. Toby Davis is up in sector 1 by about 0.04 of a second. So we'll have to wait and see on that one.
Did he even cross the... Is this lap... Is
Yeah,
he
he already crossed the line.
Yeah, he already crossed the line.
Gone.
Okay, that's fine. That's my mistake. So there we go. We'll come back to the grid after 2 seconds as we get into the warm-up and race 2 here at Monza for the Virtual Carrera Cup. Back after these messages.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
Welcome back to the broadcast here. We're just going to give you a quick update on the next event here, Virtual Mini Challenge at Jacques-Rapagua, Curvasol here, round 2. Obviously, round 1 was at Curitiba. Very interesting round. Hopefully, these guys can give us even more entertainment for that round. It's going to be this Tuesday coming up, so stay tuned for that. The next event after that is Virtual Super Tech, round 2 at Jerez next Saturday. In fact, so it's remember the last race was actually blacked out. Hopefully, we'll have the broadcast for you for round 2. And the event after that is Virtual Touring Masters. These guys are going to be getting back underway. Obviously, the last round was at Spa-Francorchamps, and the round after that is going to be about a week and a half time Wednesday. So stay on the lookout for that. So let's actually get back. Yeah, and actually, before we get into the race, we're still in warm-up here. Let's actually have Robert talk about Division 2 very quickly and what we saw in Race 1 here in Virtual Carrera Cup.
Yeah, we don't only have these 32 drivers here on this server, but we also got a second server of the people who qualified a bit further behind in pre-qualifying. And the first race, also on the same track, was won by Thomas Ersen, driving for Core Racing, followed by his teammate Heinz Petzold and Matt Richards in the 3rd place. Very good for him. And apparently Oscar Hartwig, who returns to TPS after a long time, he was leading the race, but he had a technical problem on the last lap, dropped back to 5th position.
That's quite a shame because I know Oscar is very prominent. I did watch him over at the GPWC World Sports Series, which is also based on the Porsche Carrera Cup, and he was very, very quick in that. In fact, I believe he was actually the champion. So a very prominent racer. If he can get himself into the top division here, I'm pretty sure if he can get up to speed, he'll be a very prominent force. Let's see. Am I okay to run through the grid? So you did it before.
Go for it, Scott.
Danny?
Go for it.
Excellent stuff. Right, so with 2 minutes to go, we'll quickly run through it. And look at that. Spade Racing lock out the first 2 rows. Marius Kollebeck will once again start from pole position, and he will have his teammates Sasha Glatter in 2nd, Jesper Tolborg in 3rd, and Tim Heinemann in 4th, all around him as backup. Best of the rest in 5th is going to be Toby Davis. Alongside him, a much better result in qualifying. Eric de Veit got to be happy with that after qualifying way outside the top 10 for race 1. Simon Kieloff will again start 7th, and Sheldon van der Linde for Infinity Esports Racing is rewarded for his form in race 1 with 8th place on the grid for race 2. Chris Butcher again improves his qualifying to start 9th, and Boyd Bryson with an excellent lap to crack the top 10 for Core Racing. Oliver Ernst for Core Motorsports will start 11th alongside Alexander Lauritsen for Precision in 12th. Eric Strana is now outside. Man starting on the front row down in 13th place for Ice Cold, with 14th place going to Diogo Silva, the man who ended up in third place and a podium in one of his first ever, I believe, runnings for GT Competizione in TPS. Kenneth German for THR Green is 15th, with Peter Rodriguez 16th. Kelvin van der Linde down in 17th place and hoping to make it further than just before the first chicane. This time he'll start alongside Miguel Cardozo in 18th. And then the rest of the grid, as we come to the countdown of warm-up session, about 40 seconds left to go, is Joko Gorinch in 19th place for Core, Emil Solberg alongside him in 20th for Ice Cold. Then it's next is Diogo Quaresma for GT Competizione and Chris Hack for Core Racing in row 11. Row 12 is Florian Werther for Optimum and Lee Palmer for Ice Cold on Row 12. Row 13 is Olli Marius Mjövel for It Gets Better and Matej Orban for Optimum. Gary Lennon and David Juntz are on Row 14 for Ice Cold and THR. And Fabio Assunção is 29th for Ghost Speed. And he, I believe, I'm not sure if he's the last car on the grid. I think, yes, he is, I believe. So that's a 29 car grid that we have for our second race. But there's a couple more cars. And there's Sojo Jr. was also on the grid as well. And he's near the back as well. You can see that in the warm-up, we've seen that Simon Kilo was quickest with a 151.0. So Kilo's showing promising race pace, but of course, hopefully, we'll get a nice clean run in the first couple of laps to make sure his launches that flat six across the curves of the Roger chicane.
It looks like I think he's just practicing the starts maybe a little bit there, but Robert talked about this in the Q2 session there. Kind of, if you're a quick driver and you have a bad race one, that just motivates you even more in Q2 to go out there. And I think that's what you saw from Spade Racing. I'm very impressed. He just locked out the front. The first the first two rows like that, 1, 2, 3, 4. Spade Racing. I mean, the fact that Glatter and not Golenbeck, but Henneman can sit out like that and then come straight on and get back on pace right off the bat. I mean, we're seeing guys like Strana, he struggled. We're seeing Silva down. We're seeing Rodriguez, all guys that did well in Q1 couldn't even rise to Q2 when they were in the car the whole time in race 1. They couldn't find that form. So I'm very impressed that we're seeing Spade lock out the first two rows like this. Hopefully these guys have a much better race of it than they did in race 1.
Absolutely, this should be a real race here. So they're off on information lap for the second race. And Scott, for Spade Racing.
What's your prediction here? I mean, who are you liking here to win this race?
Well, I think, of course, the potential of both Sasha Glasser and Tim Heinemann is untapped because, of course, they didn't last very long off the start. So, of course, I'm sure they'll learn their lesson to just hold back on the revs a little bit on the grid. I think also Tolborg's race pace was pretty ferocious. So I think possibly he's actually starting slightly higher up in third. So if he can now make his way through the field and get past both Golombek and Glass, that could be key. Then again, Golombek's pace coming back through was quite strong, so until he got bulked a little bit somewhere just below the top 10. So it's quite tough. I think possibly if Golombek can keep it together, because he did have a very good start, I think potentially he could run away with it. And if Talbot can go with him, we could see a fight between those two. But again, the race pace of both Glatter and Heinemann is completely untested, so they could also be up there, and we could even see a scenario where all four Spade Racing cars end up almost line of stone with each other, battling for the race victory and the podium placings. So unless someone like Toby Davis or Eric Tavai or Simon Keelov can get amongst them and cause a bit of a stir and start to halt their progress, I could possibly see all four of these Spade Racing cars potentially run away with the first four places. What about you guys? How do you see this? How do you see this one turning out?
Yeah, Rob. I mean, I'm curious. Obviously, one of your teammates is in 5th position, but I mean, how are you reading this race? I mean, who are you liking here?
Well, of course, I would like to see Toby Davis winning this race, but I don't really see that now with the pace that Spade Racing can show. I'm going with Jesper Torwak again, just because he's a proven, very consistent, very fast driver, and all these other guys, I'm not really sure how they will do in the race. Maybe they make a mistake again, so I'm going with the safe option. I'm going with Torwak.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there, Rob. I mean, Talbot started 5th last race, or 5th or 4th, and now I think he obviously got the confidence that he just won the last race. And then, I mean, this guy's the most winningest driver in TPS history. Spade did themselves a tremendous service in going out and signing him, because, yes, when you have drivers like Golenbeck ran into trouble, Heinemann, a Glatter, you have Talbot who knows how to get it done in the big moment. Listen, he's ran over 160 races in TPS. Has the only DNF 3 to 6 of them. It's something ridiculously minimal. So he knows how to finish races. He knows how to get things done. And if you want to check the stats for yourself, go to TouringProSeries.com/rank. You can look at all the numbers yourself, and you'll see quite easily this is your #1 ranked driver in TPS, and it's that way for a reason. He got the race 1 win. Now I think he's set to walk out of here as the championship leader regardless, because he's starting on podium. It's hard to really predict him going down the field or having that big DNF like we talked about. So I do think this is your race 2 winner. Let's see if Talbot can get that double win for Spade Racing in its debut with this new outfit.
But there's one dark horse. I'm sorry. There's one dark horse that I would like to point the attention on. That's Eric Twite. because
Yeah.
he's kind of famous for going through the field from starting very far back. And now he starts in 6th place, so that's very far at the front.
That's true. He queued, I think, 19th or 18th in Q1. So, I mean, yeah, he's very close at the start. Can he now pull it together, though?
We'll have to wait and see. We'll have to wait and see. Can Glatter and Heinemann's engines last until further than the first couple of corners? Can Golombek keep it in front before making a mistake? Will Tolborg get to the front and run away with it? And can anyone else stop these guys from dominating? We're all set for another 13 laps here at Monza for the second race of the opening round of the Virtual Carrera Cup. Spade Racing lock out the first 2 rows. We wait and see if it's going to be an all change once again. Here come the lights then. Revs are going to rise, ready for the start here in Monza. It's out and we're racing once again. And a poor start looks, I think, well, that's from Tolborg. I think it was. Tolborg with a poor start. And no, it's Heinemann, sorry. Heinemann got the poor start. And Davis now going to go 3 wide in the middle of both Glatter and Tolborg down towards turn 1. Golombek gets the perfect start and turns it into the rest of it for the first time. And that's Glatter going straight on. And it was contact with Taylor Davis, I think. And Davis gets through to second place. Then Glatter stays in second. He's going to have to give that place back because he did go across the chicane, I'm pretty sure.
Glatter's got a drive-through penalty. He's got a drive-through penalty
for that. So
Wow.
Sure, so that was, I think there was contact between Davis and Glatter, I'm pretty sure, because I think Glatter did come across the front of Davis as they braked for the Rogers for the Rettifidio. But now down towards the Rogers chicane they come then, and I would say, but again, my viewers caught up again. There we go. And it's that Davis think is flashing the lights. I think that's Glatter's let Davis through, and Davis flashed the lights to say thank you. It's in the background. Is that Twite going up the inside of Tolborg up towards the second Lesmo? It is. Can he get the move stuck? Ooh, Tolborg sweeps across the front of Twite and almost takes his nose off as they charge out of a Lesmo. 32 of these Flat 6 Cup cars, like a swarm of wasps, down through Curva di Seraglio and up towards Ascari for the first time. The very tricky braking zone. It's a very high-speed chicane that you approach it at some 160, 170 miles an hour. Look at them flying past one after the other. These incredible Cup cars as they head down towards the chicane once again. And now look at this. We've got Twite has got around Tolborg, so he's into P4. Of course, now Tim Heinemann's up there after starting relatively up near the front as well. And they head down towards the Parabolica for the first time, and Golombek still leads it, but Davis is broken away. Or he has almost, as they're going to go almost 2-3 wide into the Parabolica, and that's Butcher with a great start to 7th as one of the racing guys gets forced out wide, and there's all sorts going on in the background. That's Simon Keeler forcing his way through. He's up there past Chris Butcher, and let the slipstream begin, because here they come. And there's so much going on. There's big contact in the background. There was big contact in the back. I think Sheldon Van Linden was involved in one of them. Yes, he was. Sheldon Van Linden was involved. There's a few other cars in there also.
He hit the pit wall. Sheldon Van der Linde hit the pit wall.
Yeah, he's lost
Incredible.
a wheel even. He is done. That car is absolutely total. Next, Eric Strana is gone as well. He is down in 28th position.
Dear.
So, I mean, to Vite, he's going to be completely marooned there
Larrickson
inside the top
also.
5.
Twite's dropping back as
It's
well.
a precision car. Larrickson also was involved in that one.
You know, at the start of this pack, we saw Tavite. He got sideways. Oh my goodness, look at that.
Sheldon.
He completely misjudged where the heck he was on the track, and then the car in front obviously went away, and he was right ahead on for that tire barrier. That was that's a terrible hit. Absolute terrible hit right there.
He pulled out to the right of Butcher and didn't realise that the pit parapet was there, and literally it was just a complete collision course. It was just, I can't believe that Sheldon did that. That was rather unfortunate, but that is his race done and dusted before the first lap even ended. And unfortunately, after such a great run from outside the top 10, his race has ended very prematurely. Back to the front though, and Golombek is now away by 1.5 seconds with Ned Davis. Is that Keeloff diving up the inside of Jesper Tolborg? It was, but he wasn't far enough alongside. Keeloff's been known to try and dive up and make a few moves like that. Couldn't pull it off this time, and that's now allowed Eric Tveit to sail up onto the back of the Dane, as they used all the runoff on the exit of Ascari to gain the best possible exit. And as they run towards the Parabolica, here comes Kilo. He's got the toe also from Tveit behind. Can he get it stopped? There's a bit of contact, and Kilo with a bit of a nudge has got himself into P5, but for how much longer? Tolborg will have got the switch back on the exit, and they're going to run parallel down the pit straight. Let's make sure none of them run into the pit wall. Now with Tveit, look at this bumper cam. Show you just the amount of speed. They're going to go 3 wide down the pit straight here. Tveit is now going to be on the left. Tveit, looking at it now, Tveit's on the right, Keelov in the middle, Tolborg on the left. Here they come, under braking. Who's going to be best and get it stopped for the corner? And it's going to be Keelov that does it. Tveit is through also, and just like that, Tolborg has lost 2 spots in a matter of 2 corners. So That's clever driving from also Dwight and Keelov, and Talbot's the one that's been shuffled back down to 7th.
Little contact there, but I think Keelov was very good in that move. Remember, he got it right by getting on the inside of the parabolica, got the run out, and was able to hold it through that first chicane. Little contact there. Yes, you would like it a little bit cleaner, but very solid job there from Keelov. Now we're right on board Sasha Glatter inside this top 3, trying to go after Toby Davis in THR. Gullenbeck, meanwhile, is just pulling the gap to these two cars. That gap was about a second, maybe a lap and a half ago, now to 1.7 seconds. So it looks like Davis and Glatter are quickly losing touch with Gullenbeck. I'm pretty sure Glatter is not going to care about Gullenbeck getting away. Toby Davis, on the other hand, needs to try to probably sort that out so he can get his head down, get a run on the leader. Otherwise, this one's going to be over. Tveit is now still, again, fighting with Keelov and Tallberg. Remember, Keelov was actually behind even Chris Butcher. He lost out the start of the race, and now he's back up there, obviously 5th position. Glatter continuing to pester Davis, now coming out of Ascari. I don't think the move is going to actually stick here. He's not going to be close enough for the overlap. Meanwhile, Strana up to 22nd, trying to recover. We don't know what happened to Strana to start the race off, but he is down to 22nd.
Apparently, what happened with Strana is that he spun together with Gary Lennon, with his teammate, and now we also see Glatter going into the pits and taking his drive through.
Yes, like you point out, Rob. Yeah, he got. Yeah, sorry about that. Looks like, I like you point out, Rob, Glatter got that drive-through penalty, I think the first lap, so finally goes in to serve it. So let's Davis get away. Obviously, Sasha Glatter was just trying to stay out there to take as much time away from Davis as possible. And mission success, because now Gullenbeck has a 2.8 second gap to Davis in behind him there.
So back to the front, and Gullenbeck still leads by 2.8 seconds, and Davis now has the advantage in 2nd place, holding on to Tim Heinemann. And now we look now from whichever camera Ryan Callan's going to choose. The rear camera looking back at Sasha Glatter. And Tim Heinemann, sorry, of course, and Sasha Glatter's just made his stop-and-go penalty for served his drive-through penalty, I should say, for cutting the chicane at the start. And look at that, Heinemann, the car bottomed out through the second Lesmo, but he'll try and get some kind of a tow on Davis down the back straight. And the run here is going to be pretty intense, I'm sure, as they now head up towards the braking zone for Ascari.
He got DQ'd. Something went wrong in his drive with his drive. He got DQ'd. Well, wow. What, did he go too fast? I'm very curious what the heck happened there. Get DQ'd after that. I mean,
what might have happened is that his pit spot is behind the start-finish line, so he actually did one lap too many because he crossed the line, and then got disqualified because he took too long to take his drive through.
Yes.
I'm not really sure what happened there.
Yeah, because that's actually another good point there, Rob. Because remember, he stayed out longer just to hamper Toby Davis, and it looked like maybe he took it to the edge of what he was able to do. And so I guess there was some type of mistake there going in. Maybe even it was a stop-go penalty. We don't really know. So then the DQ, there it is.
Heinemann to the inside of Davis now for P2. Got the run down the pit straight. And just so want to watch the move, my RRD viewer freezes again.
Oh, Davis spins! Davis is around!
Spins. Davis went
He's
around.
Stuck on the curb. Keelov spins!
Oh, he's been collected by Keelov as well. Keelov and Davis, and Davis is almost beached on the curb. Keelov might get there too. Keelov manages to rejoin, and away he goes. But Davis, is that his end of his race, or can he get it going again? Because there's cars going past, and poor Toby Davis is just stranded at the Rettifilo. There's also one of the Ghost Speed cars, and that's sporting. That's sporting one of the Ghost Speed guys. He's pushed. That was David Junt, I think it was.
It was Junt. It was Junt. And I was actually about to...
That's team camaraderie for you.
Sorry to cut you off there, Scott, but I was actually going to point out that you were right. He was marooned on that curb. I was wondering when the THR guys were going to come behind him and do that, get him off the curb like that. David Young, obviously, that's very sporting from Young. Davis is secured in Division 1. He's secured, okay? He's going to be in Division 1 on this live broadcast next for round 2. Young, that's not so much the case for Young, okay? He's got to really fight to stay in Division 1, and the fact that he was willing to sacrifice his own race, his own well-being in Division 1, that's something I really have to applaud for Young, to go out there and really help his teammate out like that.
Absolutely, I've never seen that before in THR. Another driver pushing his teammate off one of these anti-cut strips of which he's been stranded. I've never seen that.
That's a very curious situation, yeah.
It is, yeah, but kudos to David Johnson for pulling that one off. That's not something you see every day. Now then, back to the front, and Chris Butcher now resumes the fight now for third place. And he's now got the seeding mob of Jesper Talbot, Eric de Veit and Diogo Silva on his rear end. You can see Diogo Silva's just taken P5 from the Norwegian, the young Norwegian. I believe the fight's only about 15 years old, which is incredible to think that he's actually racing up near the front here and battling the likes of Talbot and Silva. And as again, my RRDVO freezes, so I have to wait for that to come back in a second, hopefully.
There's contact. Butcher's around.
Hold on to third place.
Butcher got tapped by
for the moment, at least.
By Silva, I think.
Davis tries to make some.
Well, here we go. Watching the replay here. Chris Butcher into the first corner. Looks like he's going to get a slight tap from the car in behind. I think one of the speed race. Is it Talberg?
No, I think that was Silva.
The Silva hit him. Okay, yeah, he goes across Silva. So Silva doesn't have that's a tough one. I think that's just maybe a racing incident. What Silva goes in pretty deep. Also hits Talberg there. So I don't know. Maybe the stewards are going to have. They're certainly going to have a look at.
And Talbot got the penalty as well, I think.
A drive-through there?
At least there's a symbol showing up, which is red and green, and on top of my screen. So he definitely got the penalty.
Oh, that is huge. That's huge then. Silva might be on for another podium position here. Talberg is going to have to go take a run through, obviously, the pit lane to serve this drive-through penalty, if there is in fact a penalty. And
maybe he just registered the pit stop. That's also possible. But the way I see it, I think it could be a drive-through for him. Yeah.
That's going to be a huge move there, because obviously Talberg was slated to walk out of here with the title lead, but if he has to take a drive-through penalty, that could punt him outside the top 10, which is certainly going to shake things up here.
Absolutely. Now, so heading back onto the pit straight once again at the end of lap 7, and Talborg is now. I think he's got a drive-through with his drive-through also. So he tends to serve it, and hopefully this time he is now going to serve that one and be able to get that one sorted as quickly as possible as he makes his way down the pit lane.
Certainly drivers are going to have a few words about this after the race, because Talberg, that was not his fault whatsoever. I mean, he got punted a little bit there by Diogo Silva, and then he had to kind of cut.
Oh, Kilo caused an incident. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but Kilo caused a big incident with Cardoso in the first chicane.
Let's see if we're right on board with Kilo. Maybe we can pull this back a little bit to see exactly what happened to Kilo. We might have the replay. We'll take a look. No, it looks like we do not have the replay, but like Rob just reported, Kilo makes a look, allegedly he makes a mistake there to kind of shuffle things back from 9th all the way down to 12th, I believe. But we're right on board with Miguel Cardoso there in 10th position. It was right in behind the foul between Kielhoff and one of the THR red cars, I believe that is. We'll see. It looks like Kielhoff doesn't have that much damage. It's Kelvin van der Linde, in fact. So we'll see exactly how this kind of transpires here over the next few laps.
Certainly will. And now we continue to look at Jesper Talbot, of course, after his drive-through, trying to charge his way back up to the field and see what he can salvage from this race. Of course, he's now chasing after Kenneth German, the German driver in the THR green machine. And he's now going to try and push forward to see what he can achieve for the remainder of this race. Back at the front.
The light is still up for Talbot, the light with the penalty. I'm not sure what's going on there.
This is interesting because then, remember, Sasha Glatter tried to fulfill his, I guess, drive-through penalty, or if it was a drive-through or stop and go, we're not sure. But obviously the system didn't register it. Maybe the same things happened to Talbot, and these guys are doing something wrong procedurally to get this penalty kind of
he's coming back in.
Yeah, is it going to be a stop and go this time, or is he just going to go through the pits? Hopefully, maybe we can see what's going on with Talbot here. As here he is in the pit lane. Yeah, he's going to try to stop and go at this time. He's going to try to stop in the box and then go. There it is. There. He's holed up for a little bit here. Not exactly sure what is going on, but he looks like, is he performing a pit stop? I don't know.
Well, at least the light is gone now, so his penalty is resolved. But I'm not sure what happened there.
10 seconds. I think it possibly was a 10-second stop and go penalty because the pit time was 10.9 seconds. So that's possibly could be potentially what that was. I think maybe he possibly thought it was a drive-through penalty, but it was actually a stop and go. So that could be quite unusual, but he does exit back out now, and he is back down in 26th and last of the cars that are still running, because we have lost, of course, Sergio Junior, Alexander Lauritsen, Sheldon van der Linde, and of course Sasha Glatter after that unusual circumstance with his penalty. And
about 5 laps here to go. Guess who's going to be leading this championship after round 1? It's going to be Mr. Diogo Silva for GT Competizione, who's currently in 3rd position. Remember, finished on podium in race 1 due to Strana kind of losing it a little bit. But this is the driver right here. This will be a complete dark horse kind of. This will surprise everyone if this kid walks out of here with the championship lead, considering the amount of drivers in this championship. It'll be absolutely mind-blowing. And look at Boyd Bison, top 4. He's in 4th position, fighting off Eric Tveit. Absolutely surprise race we're seeing from I think 2nd or 3rd on back.
Absolutely, this is a great job from Boyd Bryson. Of course, he had a great qualifying for race 2. Definitely is paying off for him at the moment, as we now head into lap number 9 of 13, and he's now under attack from Eric Tveit as they head down towards the Rettifilio once again under brakes. And Tveit, I think, he's now going to hold on. He's made a great pass up the inside, and now going to put his foot down, a bit twitchy on the exit. But as they now head up towards the Roger through Curva Grande now, Eric Tveit is going to hold on, and a great pass to get up into the top 4 after that after a great qualifying, which definitely is worth that performance. As Florian Werther has now gone straight on across the Rettifilio, and that's a sea of cars go past, led by Miguel Cardoso, with also Diogo Quaresma's got past as well, and Lee Palmer could also make his way through, which indeed he does. But Werther, I think, is probably going to go to the outside and try and sort this one out. So,
this is a bit on.
Ooh, trying to get it stopped, and he has done just about. He slots in back in 13th place.
Yeah, this is a bit unfortunate for Vojta, because I was watching this battle. He was in with Miguel Cardoso just outside the top 10. They go about 2 wide into the first chicane. 2 other cars right in behind him. Vojta goes wide, and then he was so, I think, hesitant to get back on the power. He just cut straight through the chicane. He didn't want to receive a penalty, so he slows down dramatically, kind of seeing what's going on with these other drivers getting these drive-through or these stop-and-go penalties, in fact. And I think he was just very hesitant getting back underway. Let's even this next pack of drivers through as we're watching. So now he's slipped down the field. Down to 14th, so certainly he's got a work cut out for him within the next 4 laps, as we're nearly to the close of this race, Scott, already.
Certainly is the case, and of course still Marius Golombek leads it by 5.6 seconds, now 5.7 from Tim Heinemann, and of course those two have just run away with the victory, of course, now that Sasha Glass is out of the race and Jesper Tolberg is down the pack. So as we expected, the Spade Racing cars that are running away with it, and Diogo Silva is best of the rest. As you said, in 3rd place, if he remains there, he will lead Monza as the championship leader. Now we're looking in front, because that's, I think, Diogo Quaresma and Lee Palmer battling over 12th position from the viewpoint of Florian Werther in 14th. And he's got Kenneth German just behind him also, and they're going to try and get it stopped for the Rettifilio, quite possibly.
Oh, he's around. He's around.
Oh, he's gone around, so that's rather unfortunate there, and he's now going to get it going once again. And was there possibly contact with German? I'm not sure, but he's getting going again. And there was another car off up at the chicane. Not quite make out who that is. That's Diogo Quaresma. So he was involved in that incident also.
There was contact between Vojta and Palmer, and Vojta just braked a little bit too late.
Also, sorry, Gary Leonard's gone. His engine has expired, so he's now out of the race also with engine troubles. So the only driver in this race is actually out of the race due to actual engine problems.
Here, let's see if we can pick up with Boyd Bison to Tveit. Bison gets around to Tveit for 4th position, and they've got Oliver Ernst and Chris Butcher in behind them, not too far off. So this seems to be the big fight on track. These guys are going at it here. Remember, this is for top 5. I mean, this is a tremendous offer from Mr. Boyd Bison. Can he hold on to Tveit, who really wants to get this 4th position, considering how his teammate Eric Strana is now kind of out of it to really help out Ice Cold get a good result here.
I'm just watching now. We've got Oliver Ernst in P6, as we're now watching Bryson and Tveit scrap over P4 now. This is a great battle that's been going on for the last couple of laps. And as they now head on for pit, once again, Tveit will have the tow. And he'll look to try and repeat his move of a couple of laps ago. And will he be able to make it up the inside? He does. Pulls to the right-hand side of Bryson, and he's going to try and pull level, and he's got his car almost about halfway alongside, so he's got every right to be there. Bryson has to give him room unless Tveit can get his nose up the inside further, which he can, gets the braking move done, and he's into P4 once more. And now Oliver Ernst is now going to get his chance, provided he can close in quick enough. Chris Butcher is now in 7th place, also to make it a 4-car train for 4th place. 4th, 5th, 6th and 7th as close as you want it. In 8th place, a little further back, is actually Kelvin van der Linde. He's actually only just ahead of Simon Kielhoff in P9, with Miguel Cardozo running out the top 10 as Butcher diving to the inside of Oliver Ernst. And has he got enough room? No, he hasn't, because he turns across, didn't realise Ernst was there, and just clips the barrier on the exit of the second part of the Roger chicane, and has to rejoin, and has lost a lot of time and several car lengths to the man in front. Here's the replay of it up the inside, and I think that possibly Butcher didn't realise that Ernst was still there on his inside. I think he possibly believed that maybe Ernst was going to back out of it and give him the room, but obviously Ernst was having absolutely none of it, and in true racers fashion decided to stick his car up the inside, park it on the apex, and stay there. As again, is that Tveit and Bryson again battling over P4 and 5? It is, and Tveit is just all over the back of the core racing driver, who's putting up a sensational effort to hold on to this top 5 place. And we're now looking back at Oliver Ernst in P7, who I think has now let Chris Butcher through. Yes, he has. There was the move. That's a replay of it just there, as Golombek sets a new fastest lap of the race. So that was rather courteous from Ernst. I think he realised that it was his mistake, and it was his doing that forced Butcher to go off at the Roger, and it means that now that Butcher's up into P6, but he has lost he's now got a gap of almost 4 seconds to P5, Eric Tveit and Brian Bryson. I think that's possibly swapping places at the front back once again.
It looks like I just want to point this out again. So if you actually were watching Jaco Gorens go against Miguel Cardozo,
Tveit breaks too late. Tveit is off in the chicane.
So I think he's still carrying on just behind Boyd Bryson there. But this battle for 10th position, core racing against GT Competizione, and we're seeing these teams outside of. Because look at the top, not even inside the top 5 are THR Precision. You've got Spade, GT Competizione, core racing, X-Core racing. We're really seeing a varied field for a long while in TPS. This is absolutely brilliant to watch. I mean, GT Competizione, Pipo Rodriguez was very quick through pre-quality. I mean, these guys look good. No one really expected this team to be this good in round 1. I would have to say they are the surprise with how Diogo Silva is coming through. Rodriguez, it's very unfortunate that Rodriguez, I believe, is down in 23rd position, had a spin very early in the race, hasn't been able to really recover from that. But regardless, him and his teammate, Diogo Silva, look tremendously well. I mean, this looks like a team that can actually challenge for the title, and they need to be a bit more consistent. As we're watching Gorens get the run now on Cardozo here after second Lesmo. Can you ever remember Gorens, or rather Cardozo, has a little bit of damage to that GT Competizione car. Can he hold on? Not so sure if he can here. Meanwhile, Lee Palmer joins the fray for Ice Cold Racing. Now we have to make this a 3-car train going up to the Parabolic. It looks like there's too much space in between these cars for something to really kick off here very shortly. But now we're seeing Kenneth German. We haven't called this guy's name much in this race. Now he might have a run on Lee Palmer. Has a second thought about that. I think that's very wise. Listen, we saw a lot of drivers go off here at the Parabolic. If you're not sensible about a move, we'll see if Kenneth German can now take a run going into the first corner.
Well, did you see possibly there, Lee Palmer almost sideways, but I think in front Cardozo and Gorens are battling over 10th, and we can't see it yet because Palmer's blocking our view at the moment. As we can see, German's trying to get the toe. Now he moves out of the way, and we can now see what's going on. And they head down towards the chicane. It's going to be last of the late breaker who's going to get it stopped first. It's almost a bit of a fracas through there, and I think the winner of that one is actually Cardozo, and the man's been shuffled out, and I think possibly Lee Palmer, because now we're looking at Kenneth German as we now head through this example with Lee Palmer, so he lost the place, and we're still chasing after these guys. And now Eric Strana's on the back of us. Eric Strana, who's rather quiet this race, is now on the back of these 4 cars and about to try and see if he can make up any places into the top 10 by the end of the lap.
Now see, who's that goes wide there, cuts the chicane there, the Kenneth Yerman.
Palmer.
Palmer was that Yerman? Yes, it's Kenneth Yerman there.
No, it was Palmer.
It was Yerman.
Yeah. It's kind of, you see the THR car 67 there as Eric's trying to slot in. That's a bit ambitious to try that around the second Lesmo. I do love that on-board camera there. It kind of gives you a sense of exactly what these drivers are seeing. We saw with Sheldon van der Linde kind of how limited visibility you can have if that car in front is too close. So it really gives you a nice gritty aspect to the.
Golombek is crossing the line for the win, by the way.
So back at the front now, and Marius Golombek takes victory in race 2. A much better performance than it was in race 1. Lasts longer than the first lap at least. And a dominant victory once again. So that's 2 out of 2 for Spade Racing in terms of victories. 1 to Telborg, 1 to Golombek. Tim Heinemann grabs 2nd place for his, again, making it further than the first few meters of the
and there's the
start.
man that steals the show there, Diogo Silva, the championship leader, Scott. I would have had to say the story from this round, Diogo Silva. Well done, mate.
Incredible stuff. Boyd Bryson takes 4th after a great drive battling with Eric Tveit in 5th. Chris Butcher takes 6th. Oliver Ernst is 7th. Kelvin van der Linde takes 8th. So I suppose that makes up in some way for his false start, if you like, in race 1. Kilov is 9th, and Cardozo wins that 5-car battle in 10th with Gorinch, German, Strana and Palmer from 10th down to 14th. Ollie Marius Miervold takes 15th, it gets better. Matej Orban 16th for Optimum, and then Fabio Assunção for 17th. Toby Davis, after that incident, is down in 18th place and has to settle for outside the top 15 at least, with Diogo Quaresma and Chris Hack rounding out the top 20. There's the results. Also, Jesper Tolborg down in 25th position after his mix-up with his penalty. He'll be disappointed with that, but still, he'll try and hard as best he can. So there's the 2 races. We'll come back for reaction and talk to some of the drivers afterwards, after these messages. Back in 2.
Inside SimRacing.tv, the fastest show on the internet. Sim racing news and reviews since 2007, with new shows every week.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing. Puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number 1 on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.
And welcome back to the post-race discussions for this, the second of our 2 races here at Monza for the Virtual Carrera Cup, which was won by Marius Golombek from pole position. And it means that Spade Racing have won both races, 1 for Jesper Tolborg and 1 for Golombek. But it is going to be Diogo Silva who will leave with the championship lead after scoring 2 third places and being the most consistent driver. It's almost kind of like how Jesper Tolborg runs his races and his championships. Just keeps it consistent, keeps it out of trouble, and keeps it on the black stuff, and is able to bring home the much needed points. And of course that means we've now got 2 races in the bag, Danny. And I have to say, for the most part, I think for the start of our brand new championship, a foray in some ways into the unknown with the Carreras, I think it's been pretty decent starts this new championship, hasn't it, Danny?
Very interesting. I'll say that. I mean, obviously, everyone thought Core Racing was going to smash it for this round 1, but GT Competizione really, I think, shows that these guys have some race. I mean, but look at Diogo Silva leading the championship with 17th in pre-quali. So no one expected this type of pace or this type of racecraft from Silva at all. But regardless, it was very mixed up there. I mean, we really couldn't predict much of anything in those races. Finally, though, Spade Racing was able to get through to take the race 2 victory. Actually, race 1 and 2 victory. I mean, I'm saying that they didn't do what people expect them to do, but at the same time, they did win both races. So let's actually pick up. We have some drivers joining us in the booth, and now let's actually pick up straight with the race 2 winner, because obviously Talbot, I'm not seeing him with us at the moment. Let's talk to Marius Golombek. I mean, Marius, you've had kind of an up and down day. Obviously, talk us through exactly what happened in race 1 where you spun from the lead.
Yeah, up and down day fits the bill. Hey guys, yeah, I can't really talk you through much because I don't really know what happened there, but I just tried to recover from missing the braking point. I was just a bit yeah, caught up because the brake markers are missing and didn't really have a perfect braking point, so I was too late for the turn. Then, yeah, it struck me that if I would cut the chicane completely through the grass, then it might end up with a drive-through or stop and go. So I just tried to recover and get as much back on the track as I could. And well, on the inside there are these bumps on the track, and the car is pretty low. So if you hit one of the bumps, it usually spins around or at least goes airborne. Yeah, and while still trying to recover to the track, hit one of these bumps and lifted the rear up and then just spun around, tried to recover somehow, not being in the way of Jesper and Eric. And yeah, it didn't happen for Eric, so sorry for that. And yeah, then tried to get off the track, but was caught up being stuck on one of these bumps, and that was pretty much yeah, hell and back.
Now, the final question I'll ask you, and this is about, you know, your race 2 results. Obviously, race 1 didn't go your way, but you were able to keep yourself together and then completely smash everyone in race 2. So how do you keep your mentality to be that strong in Q2 and then have absolutely no mistakes in race 2 after, you know, obviously race 1 not going so well for you?
Yeah, well, it's a strong grid, that's safe to say, so you can't really afford to get caught up in rage or being disappointed. You pretty much have to put a tick on it, just forget about it, and well, you've got about 5 minutes of time till the qualifying for race 2 starts, so there's not really much time for thoughts about what went wrong, so just forget about it, analyze it after the race, just completely try to leave it behind and then just go back into a whole new race. That's the beauty of this race format. You're pretty much going in for a completely new weekend, new qualifying, new race. So I'm glad that it isn't, for example, top 8 reverse, because with place 12 in first race I wouldn't have been in there, so would have been a lot harder. So you get a completely new try and just try to do your best again. You know you've got it in you, and just get qualifying done and try to not be so stupid in turn 1 for race 2 then.
Now, I know Scott is with our second driver here.
Absolutely. I'm going to have a quick chat to Toby Davis here then. Toby, I guess mixed fortunes again for you for the first 2 races. Great battles going through the field in race 1. Just talk us through that for a moment, because I guess you didn't qualify as high as you probably would have liked. I think you were inside the top 10, but probably could have been a little bit higher, possibly you felt.
Yes.
Just talk us through how your race 1 played out.
Well, everyone got to the end of lap 1, got into turn 1, and it was mayhem. Everyone was everywhere, and I, amongst others, braked far too late as a result of the missing brake marks, and yeah, it was absolute savagery. But that said, we managed to make good progress, myself and Chris, and progressed well to 4th and 5th in the end. So not too bad at all, race 1. Race 2 was a bit more interesting. Had a decent start, fantastic start actually. Got through by quite a few of the guys in front. I think it was up to 2nd. Little contact from Sasha, but he let me back through, so it's very kind of Sasha. And then going into turn 1, side by side with Mr. Heinemann, and I think perhaps we could have given each other a little bit more room, and that would have avoided what happened to me. But thankfully, David took it upon himself to push me off the curb, and I carried on and ended up in the top 20. So it's not too bad. But yeah, I have to say I was trying to hide my pace before the season, and I think I probably should have got 2 podiums today.
It was rather courteous from David. It's not something I've seen very often. One sim racing helping out another, of course, when they're on the same team, to push them off an anti-cut strip. But very courteous driving from David to do that. I wanted to get your opinion on one thing, because you've been around almost mainly possibly all of the TPS championships that have been around either this season or the summer championships.
Yep.
How does the Carrera Cup car stack up to the other cars you've driven? Is it up there one of your favourites? Is it a more difficult car to drive? How do you rate it?
It's a fantastic car to drive. It really is. It's probably one of my favourites. There's not enough setup options in my view. I'd like to be able to mess around with the damper settings and get it a little bit more to my liking, particularly on turn-in. But it is what it is, and as it is now, it's a fantastic championship. The lack of setup options really do level the field, and we saw that in pre-qual with just a few tenths separating the top 32. So it is a cracking car, and it will be a cracking championship. And there's a few little things to iron out, I guess. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the next race at London.
And just very quickly, of course, speed racing seems to have the early advantage, but you do have the edge over precision at the moment. How do you rate your THR's pace across the season going forward?
Well, to be honest, Kenneth Yeoman surprised us a little bit. He was actually quite good today, and Kelvin, I'm sure once he's fixed blowing up engines on the start line, he'll be up there as well. So yeah, I'm pretty confident. Myself and Chris, obviously, we've put ourselves together because we do feel we're the strongest two drivers, and that's how it's played out. But we'll see. I'm sure we can take the fight to the Spade guys. They've come in and done an excellent job and been very quick. So. There's lots to do and challenges to overcome, but we'll see how we go.
Well, fingers crossed, and hopefully you'll have some decent results next time out in Lebanon, Toby. Cheers
Scott.
for that.
Cheers, mate.
Next up is Danny, who I believe has got Eric Strana with him. Danny.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to Eric Strana, obviously the pre-quali winner. So, Eric, a lot of hype around you going into this championship. You are, I guess, considered the fastest guy going into this thing. So, I mean, you seem to struggle in the Q sessions. Yes, you found pace at the end of Q1, but in Q2 you fell away. So what was going on with the quali here at Monza?
Well, I mean, one of the fastest. I had no idea about that. But for Q1, I mean, me and Fight trying to slipstream around, and that didn't work at all. We were doing mid 51, so it was like, no, screw it, we're just going to go on ourselves. And when I did, I got a tiny slipstream from Pinky, which I thank you greatly for. And I was 300ths off of Marius, but I mean I had this pace. I didn't even do a very good last sector, so I could have probably found those 3 tenths. But I mean Q2, when the times are a second faster than they were in Q1, I think I have no idea what it was. I mean I can't remember what I did, but I was still half second, 6 tenths off. So I don't know. I'm usually not a very good qualifier, and Q1 actually surprised me, but Q2 didn't surprise me as much. But
wait. You mean to tell me at the winning pre-qual, which is all just qualifying, you're not too good in qualifying? What?
Check how many I did. I think I did 800 laps, just doing so many hours of the same track. You get to learn the stuff. I mean,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you then about the first race. You obviously had damage to your car, but you fought with Keelov nonetheless. Going into the Parabolica against, who was it, Diogo Silva,
yes.
You seem to have a bit of a moment. Talk us through that.
That was completely, I was just going faster than I thought it was. I know some people have asked me, what was that dive? That was ridiculous. I know, I was going way faster than I thought I was. I was just trying to show myself, just hopefully Diogo would outbrake himself, but I just braked way too late and spun around and ended up 10th. So that was completely my fault, and yeah, there's not much more to say about that. If I scared anyone, I apologize.
Final question I have for you, it's just about kind of ice cold racing and how you guys kind of view yourselves in this championship. Obviously you have Core, you have THR, you have now GT Competizione. How do you feel ice cold racing kind of slots in with those teams moving forward?
Well, we were all expecting to finish even way better today. We did not really show the pace that we had. I think we just basically need more luck. I mean, I had my crash with Marius in turn 1. Turn 1, lap 2, and that completely screwed my car, and it went understeer. I mean, it went great straight ahead, but then you get to a corner, it was like, I had no front tires, but, and then, I mean, Eric did great. He spun a couple of times as well, as is usual, but, Lee did as good as, we were expecting. Gary was maybe not exactly where he wanted, but he crashed into me race too, so we were just having horrible luck, which is usually something that happens to me personally, but something that happens to the team, so we're going to have a little rethink before round 2, wherever that is, Road America or something. So I think we should be up there. Today didn't really deliver what we wanted to, but we'll see where we end up at the end of this thing.
Well, regardless, solid job from you guys today. Hopefully you guys can improve for the second race of the championships. But let me actually throw this to Scott to point out our fourth interviewee here.
Yeah, I'm going to have a chat to the other TH Orange driver, Chris Butcher, if he's about. Chris, again, mixed. It's slightly your qualifying in for race 1 wasn't spectacular. You're outside the top 10, but you came through pretty well. Just talk us through that first race, because of course it seems though you had to battle your way a bit through the field in order to get up into the top 10 there.
Yeah, it was pretty hectic. I knew going into qualifying that I didn't have the fastest sort of single lap pace, and the preparation wasn't ideal because I literally got back into I got into the game as qualifying was starting. But in terms of the race, I had a pretty good launch. There was quite a lot of people sort of slowing down before the braking zone because there was cars off all over the place, and I'm not really sure what was going on there. And then obviously coming on to the second lap, I did the same as everybody else and missed my braking point completely after the brake markers were gone. But after that, settled into a rhythm, made up some positions, and ended up 5th, which, given the circumstances, I don't think was too bad. I think my race pace was a little bit stronger than that, but can't really be overly disappointed.
And then going to race 2, better qualifying, you're inside the top 10. You found yourself mainly you kind of battling along with near the top 5, and then Toby had his incident, which left you kind of near the front of the field, and then you were battling along. I think it was with, if I'm correct, Boyd, I think, and then there was a bit of a collision up at the Roger. Just talk us through what happened there. No, it wasn't. It was I can't remember who it was, but there was a bit of miscommunication at the Roger, which caused.
Got.
Yeah, you're breaking up there a little bit, Scott. There. So let's.
I missed the back end of the question. Yeah.
There was you had a collision up at the Roger with, I'm trying to believe who it was, but with somebody. But just talk us through what happened there. It looked like there was a bit of a miscommunication between the two of you.
It was with Ernst, and yeah, I mean, I braked a bit later than he did. I made the apex of the turn, and I was aware that he was still outside me, and I thought I'd left enough room on the inside for him. And then the next thing I knew, he'd bumped into my car, and I was in the gravel trap, and bouncing back off of the tyre wall. I mean, he gave me the position back. I'm not really sure whether anyone was to blame for that or whether it was a racing incident. I'll have to go back and have a look. But he was kind enough to give me the position for it. I shouldn't really have been in that position. I should have been a bit further up actually after the unfortunate events of turn 1. After I got spun, but you know, that's something else.
Well, great effort anyway to go up there and grab yourself some points in both races. So fingers crossed you can go a bit further up in learning on next time around. Dan, I believe you have the next driver standing by, ready to have a chat with us.
Yeah, we're actually going to point this toward Mr. Boyd Bryson there. Boy, tremendous result in race 2. You're fighting with the likes of Eric Tveit. Brad, I've got to say this is by far and away your best result in TPS to date. So, I mean, talk us through the race from your perspective. How did that go for you?
Well, first, thanks very much. Yeah, it was actually quite a surprise because I didn't have the pace leading up to the event, and we saw in Quali 1, I just couldn't put the lap times together, and miles off my personal best. But I don't know. I think the cauldron of competition seems to do something to me, because in that first race, well, I just messed it up. With the brake marker boards that were gone, I put it up the left, and I ended up going down the slip road and having a stop and go penalty imposed. So that was my first race gone. But in the second race, I don't know what happened. I just put in a qualifying of 50.69, which is better than I've gone all week. And just took it from there. Made no mistakes. Had some fantastic racing with Eric. Thanks, Eric. And that was, it just turned out well for me. I was a bit lucky, of course, with the incidents with the guys spinning out and going off in front of me. But fourth is fourth, and I'll take it any day. Thanks.
Now, the final question I have for you is that, I mean, usually we're not accustomed to seeing you that far up like that. How was it to fight and for those premium positions like that with the drivers, like we said, to fight Butchers, these guys, the top names in TPS? I mean, how were your nerves dealing with those guys like that?
Strangely enough, Danny, I was really very calm. After the first race, I just put my head down, and I don't know, when I was side by side with Eric going through Parabolica and side by side going through turn 1 and 2 and side by side going through the Lesmos and stuff like that, it was just I don't know what came over me. I was just amazingly calm, and in a situation like this, you can't lose your head and try to push it, try to stay away. So I wasn't trying to drive outside of my limits, but I was just very fortunate. It worked out fantastically well. But as I said, I amazed myself. It was quite serene or surreal.
Hey, well, it was absolutely tremendous to watch. I mean, we all wish you more luck down the stretch run, boy. Hopefully, we can see you up in these broadcast booths more often at the race for a nice chat after the races. But that's going to wrap up our interviews here, Scott. So, I mean, let's talk. Actually, no. Let me point this to Robert to hear the Division 2 results, because obviously, like we alluded to our viewers, we have a second division. Rob. How did it all break down?
Yeah, this time Oscar Hardwick, who had a technical problem last race when he was leading, this time he brought the car over the line in first position, won the race, and in second place it was Marco Felix, who is a very experienced driver from Portugal, who is also very high up in our TPS ranking, and third place was Lopez from the Positive Sim Racing team.
Well, very, very nice results. I'll hand it over to Scott here.
Excellent stuff. So, of course, that does conclude the racing. Of course, I guess it's been a fantastic start to this infancy of this championship, which is very much in its infancy, but has certainly proved that it's very fast and furious, very competitive, and one that is certainly going to provide action all the way until the final event in Bathurst. The next event, of course, for TPS itself is going to be the Virtual Mini Challenge coming up this coming Tuesday at the Giacomo Padua circuit on the Curva Sul layouts. The Saturday that week on Saturday is going to be the next round of Virtual Supertech Series. Hopefully, our first broadcasters. We did miss out on the first round in Curitiba with technical problems. That's at Jerez, and after that, the following Tuesday after that will be the next round of the Virtual Touring Masters with the brand new DRM Group 5 cars. Their second round after an electric race at Spa-Francorchamps will be at the Salzburg Ring in Austria. And of course, the next round for the Virtual Carrera Cup will be in 2 weeks' time at the French circuit Lebanon for another 2 races there. And that's a circuit which, looking at it on paper, layout might look very interesting, but if you see how many elevation change and how the track flows and drives, it's certainly one that's going to be very entertaining and cause a lot of great racing. And I guess if I quickly turn to you guys, Danny and Rob, for some final thoughts. What a way to kick off this new championship. I'm pretty sure it's lived up to the hype and then some. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, go ahead, Robbie. I'll let you get on this.
Yeah, well, this was a very exciting start of the championship, and we could see the Spade Racing guys were really quick, and in the end they won both races, but there was a lot of drama. And at the moment, if you would ask me who's going to win this championship, I completely don't know. It's so open, and I think we will see lots of exciting races.
Yeah, it's completely open. I think that's the way to put it, because obviously we saw guys, one race they were good, second race not so much, but certainly it's going to be a championship. I think it's going to go down even to the final few races. We just want to thank GamePod for sponsoring the championship. They've obviously been a sponsor here with the TouringProSeries for many years now. Ash from GamePod, those guys have been very good. These guys were behind pretty much the Tom Unskold Clio Series. So again, they're with us for the next big championship in Virtual Carrera Cup. So we very much thank them here from the folks at the TPS and its drivers. But I do want to make a point to point out the TouringProSeries debrief, the first episode we had just actually during this race we posted.
I think possibly I have lost the audio there. I think he's talking about the TouringProSeries debrief podcast that we have. I believe, as he was alluding, that it was uploaded onto the channel during this broadcast. So hopefully you should be able to find it if you head on to youtube.com/TouringProSeries. Of course, you can follow us on Facebook as well, facebook.com/TouringProSeries, and also you can follow us on Twitter at Touring_Pro as well. And of course, as we alluding, thank you very much to GamePod for sponsoring, putting up the prize, which is a £1,300 racing rig. Of course, price-wise, not actually weight, because of course that would be impossible to lift. But £1,300, it's worth £1,300. Brilliant rig, which someone is going to win. It'll be one of the 32 drivers that are taking part. Is it going to be the same again in Lebanon? Will it be Spade Racing winning once again? Will they dominate the championship? Will THR Precision be able to come back much stronger? Or are the likes of possibly Eric Tavai, Eric Strana, or even our pro drivers Kelvin and his brother Sheldon Van Linder be able to do anything to try and stop them? We'll find out in 2 weeks' time. But until then, from myself, Scott Woodwiss, from Danny Asbury, and also from Robert Wiesenmueller and from Ryan Callan running cameras, thank you very much for watching, and we'll catch you in Lebanon in 2 weeks. But be sure to be tuned for more racing in the next couple of weeks on TPS. But until then, bye for now.
GamePod, the ultimate race rig for those serious about sim racing, puts you in the driver's seat with all the controls at your fingertips. Be number one on the road, in the race, in the game. GamePod, the choice of champions.